let's take a look. Which ones are you having?
All right. Welcome, everybody. Today is the City Council study session for May 19th. And I want to thank you all for coming. Dee, will you please call roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Weller.
Present.
Councilmember Fajeri.
Present.
Councilmember McDonald.
Here.
Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Schulmas.
Here.
Councilmember Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Wright.
Okay, and Councilmember Wright had said that she wasn't able to make it today. Do I hear a first and a second?
A motion to excuse Councilmember Wright from
Second.
today.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All right. Okay, so we're going to get through this. Never been in this position before, so I apologize, except for I think in 2018, and that was a lot easier. So, mayor's announcements. All right. Memorial Day, Pullman City Hall, Pullman Recreation Center, Pullman Aquatic Center, Neal Public Library, and other Pullman administrative offices will be closed on that day, May 26th, Memorial Day. But there will be a groundbreaking ceremony for the Pullman Veterans Memorial Park, and that will begin at 11 o'clock.
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem, May
Yeah.
25th.
May 25th, yes. It says May 26th on here.
Oh, sorry, I was just, okay.
Yeah, no, the mayor sent me a wrong note.
No. Dun, dun, dun.
Francis, that's your fault. Emergency services will remain available. So thank you, Councilmember Parks, that's on Monday, May 25th. Okay, irrigation season. Pullman's outdoor irrigation season starts on June 1st and runs through September 30th. Residences with even addresses can water on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Odd addresses can water on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. All watering must take place before 10 a.m. or after 6 p.m. on your designated days. This schedule only applies to irrigation and unattended sprinkler watering. Handheld watering is always allowed. And I know that can get confusing. I've been confused with it also. It can be found online. Okay, Parks and Recreation. And this is what I just was talking about, the Veterans Park. Everyone is invited to the groundbreaking ceremony for Veterans Memorial Park on Memorial Day, Monday, May 25th at 11 a.m. at the corner of Fairmont Drive and Cemetery Road. The City of Pullman and Maynard Price Post 52 American Legion have worked really hard to make this park a reality, and we hope to see you all there. It's going to be very awesome. All right. On to the next. Neal Public Library, the Healthy Aging Resource Fair. Come to Neal Public Library for the Healthy Aging Resource Fair on Wednesday, May 20th from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Attendees will learn about free programs and resources that support Whitman County residents in healthy aging, independence, and caregiving. The event is free and open to the public. For more, please see a listing of other community events. Visit the city's tourism page at www.visit-pullman.com/events/. All right. I think that's done for that. Now, community comments. This agenda item is the opportunity for public to bring comments to the attention of the elected officials. Specifically, this item is reserved for public comments, concerns, or other information not related to a previous public hearing. This agenda item for comments will not exceed 30 minutes in total. Comments are to be directed to the mayor or city council as a body. No comments should be directed to an individual council member. Anyone?
Yes.
Awesome, great.
Okay.
Do you need some help?
I'm beyond help.
Okay. You and I both, believe me.
You drive. I'm back. You miss me?
Hey, always.
I'm Barbara Merchant. I want to talk about Dan Records. He needs to be honored. If you look at his obituary, you'll be amazed at what he did in such a short span of life. Dan contributed a lot to Pullman. One thing Dan did is he got the pride flag raised over, I believe, City Hall, and got it done during COVID. Dan's death is a tragedy. This man should be honored for his contribution to Pullman and elsewhere. I mean, Dan, you could call him and he'd be approachable and he'd answer your questions. And he did this whether he was here or once he got his other job. So please consider raising the pride flag June 6th when we have Pullman Pride, because Dan is Pullman Pride. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Timothy Paulitz. We all recognize the contributions that Dan has made to the Palouse, to the LGBT and queer community, to Inland Oasis, to civil rights at WSU in the city of Pullman. I don't want to take the time to elaborate all that. But how to remember Dan? We could fly the pride flag at City Hall for the month of June. This would acknowledge Pride Month, Pullman Pride on June 6th, and especially Dan. This would show us that Pullman is a welcoming community. We have all those welcoming signs for different languages when you come into Pullman. But how about recognizing and welcoming the queer community who have continued to make contributions to life in the city of Pullman? A lot of cities throughout Washington have flown the pride flag. Lots of cities in western Washington, Spokane, the state capital, even the city of Boise until the regressive Idaho legislature outlawed against it. And here in Pullman in the past. But some may argue if we fly the pride flag, we'll have to allow everybody to fly a flag. And I would say no, it can be done on a case-by-case basis, respecting the separation of church and state, no partisan signs or banners, and not allowing any group that advocates intolerance, hate, or exclusion. I respectfully request that the City Council fly the pride flag for the month of June. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paulitz.
My name is Laurel Katina. I want to ask that you raise the flag too. That's not why I'm here, but I'd love to see that happen. I'm here regarding the Michael Baumgartner meeting. I talked to you on social media, and I really am sorry, Nathan. I hope I never caused you any harm. I never meant to do anything. But I did ask for public records requests, and I got some emails I want to read real quick. One is to Dan Bisbee, which is Michael Baumgartner's director, Eastern Washington director. This is from Frank. I think you're an amazing district director who deserves tremendous fanfare and additional compensation. Cheers, Frank. This is also from Frank that says, Gents, Dan Bisbee, who is Baumgartner's director, thinks it would be great if the MRAP would be on display for the meeting on Friday. To Ruben Harris, who says, I can look into coordinating that. I did call the Pullman Police and they did not provide that. The last one is Eric's. Eric says, morning RJ, thank you for leading Baumgartner visit. How many folks will be there, and do we have a coordinated city message that we are trying to put on him? I'm gauging how much I need to prepare to have talking points ready. I know Nathan will be there. Him and I chatted briefly about it yesterday. RJ Lott says, happy to help. My understanding is that we're simply hosting, this is not a city event. To which Eric says, oh, interesting. Eric, thank you for trying to represent the people in Pullman, and Nathan, thank you as well.
Thank you.
And the last thing is in the newsletter to the Michael Baumgartner's newsletter, he says the Pullman meetings, we finished Friday in Pullman with a town hall and meetings with community leaders from across Whitman County. He did not hold a town hall.
Thank you for your passion.
Hi, y'all. Oh,
Hi.
it's so good to see your faces again. I'm Shay Ortega. If you didn't know me already, you probably did. But for those who didn't know Dan Records, he was a Pullmanian through and through. He graduated with a BA in political science here from Washington State University. He received his Juris Doctorate from University of Idaho, and he served the city of Pullman as a city council member representing Ward 2. On top of his dedication and ties to our beloved community, Dan was also a powerful advocate of the LGBTQ community. Much to many's pleasant surprise, he was instrumental in getting the pride flag raised during one of the most globally impactful events since World War II, the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you really look throughout history, you'll find that there are a few consistent groups who show up to do some of the hardest work required to resolve community crises. You all are part of that, but also churches, the immigrant community, and the queer community. Organizations like the Intersectional Advocacy Coalition and allies like Dan Records understood how incredibly important it was to support groups that fight the good fight. So the queer community, Dan included, stepped up to serve the food insecure, the homeless community, issues that reach far beyond those that only affect the queer community, and we fight for the health and welfare for all of them, all of those here in our community. So if Dan can do it, I ask you, along with the rest of us in Pullman, as your constituents, that if he could show the courage that you do as well to raise the flag on June 6th and keep it raised for the remainder of June for Pride Month. Because solidarity and support, like that we showed for you when we campaigned for you, is really what keeps a community together, especially for those marginalized groups who can do nothing else but speak up and act for the rest of us. So let's keep our community thriving and raise that flag. I know you can do it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Bobby Greider with the Downtown Pullman Association. And to follow on the heels of those before me, I want to announce that June 6th is Pride Day, and the DPA is a proud sponsor of that event. At noon, there's a rally in the Cougar Plaza, and eventually at 1:30, there will be a march down Main Street to Rainey Park for a family-friendly festival with flowers and bubbles and who knows what else, but it should be great fun, so I hope you will be there. I also wanted to announce that May 28th is through August 13th, it will be our Music on Main. So our first band will begin on May 28th, and it is Mallard Blue from Moscow. They are a bossa nova band. We're excited by this playlist, actually, that we have. We have Raza Northwest with jazz. The next one will, on the 4th, June 11th, we have Betty and the Northern Lights, which is classic rock and alternative. We have Paradox, pop, rock, country, and folk. John and Rand, vintage 60s, 70s favorites. A new group called One Street Over, and they are country. And then we'll bring Raza back. Midnight Highway, we'll have 2 showings of country and rock. And then we will have Dave Hoyt's band called Confluence, and it'll be Latin jazz, bossa nova type of music. And then we have a great group called the Sultry Swines, which is basically international and with an accordion and all that kind of fun stuff, so think Zydeco. And then we will talk about Lentil Festival down the road, but that's the lineup for now, so y'all be there. Pine Street Plaza, 6 o'clock to 8. Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby. Okay. Now, Sean, I'm going to turn to you real quick here. Sure. Oh, wait. Any other community comments? Okay. Now, usually we have council member comments afterwards. Does that not happen for the study session?
No, the council member comments are contained within the committee reports in the study session format.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Proclamation. So I had no clue that I would be doing the proclamation, but here we go. You're stuck with me, at least for tonight. All right, so May 2026, Building Safety Month Proclamation. Whereas the City of Pullman is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play both in everyday life and when disaster strikes, and whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention, officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and other in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the Washington Association of Building Officials and International Code Council, nonprofit organizations that bring together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play, whereas we join in support of this effort in association with the Washington Association of Building Officials and local chapters throughout the state, representing the state of Washington in national and local matter of public safety, whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the Washington Association of Building Officials and International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Built to Last, the theme for Building Safety Month 2026, encourage us all to get involved and raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale, and whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local, state, tribal, territorial, and federal building safety and fire prevention departments in protecting lives and prosperity. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Weller, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Pullman, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join with their communities in participation in Building Safety Month activities. Thank you. All right. Now, council member committee reports and comments. So we are going to start, Tawny, over here. All right.
Me?
Yeah.
I think I am just the audit committee. We're only doing the committee stuff right now, right? So I'm just the audit committee, and I don't actually have anything to say at this time. I've got no updates.
Okay, one second. Sean, can we do both committee and comments at the same time? You can go ahead and do your comments as well.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Sean, thanks, Sean.
I appreciate that. I actually didn't have a ton of comments tonight, but I did want to take a moment to recognize everybody who came and spoke for Dan Records. It takes a lot of guts to get up there, and it is my hope that we could possibly look at doing something. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my committees are the library board, And things are going pretty well with the library board. We are working on our place in the comprehensive plan going forward and just sort of refining that. The library is operating currently on reduced hours, but they're still seeing a lot of good numbers with checkouts and circulation and things like that. Some of our librarians have attended various conferences of late and have been, one particular one, our team actually made a presentation at the conference. So, yeah, the library is very active. Our meeting is tomorrow, so I don't have, you know, I'll probably find out more tomorrow, but that's everything I have on that. And then the other one I serve on is the, what's it called? I always forget, it's LEF. Anyway, it's the firefighters, help me, here it is, Firefighters Disability Board, Law Enforcement Officer and Firefighters Disability Board, and the city has a contract to pay for long-term care, things like that for our retired law enforcement and firefighter officials. And so every month we audit the bills that are coming from the few folks that have that right now, and we approve them, and that's a pretty non-controversial board, actually. We just say, is everyone in favor? Yes, okay, see you next month. So it's fortunate, and it's comprised of 3 citizens, or 4 citizens and myself, so. And Dee runs the meeting, so.
With an iron fist, I bet.
No, she's very good.
That's how you know it's extra good, right? An iron fist that you don't even know.
I'm just used to it after all these years.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry, and the only comment I have is to agree with Tawny about Dan Records. I do feel it would be an appropriate way to honor him if we can, and I take what the gentleman said, Dr. Politz, about we can look at it at a case-by-case basis, but I think particularly this year it would be a nice way to honor him. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, DPA report, I'm just getting on that team. I think our next meeting is the 27th, something like that. But you already heard from Bobby a little bit, but in addition to that, we just wrapped up Art Walk, which was largely successful despite the rain. The board will vote to fill the remaining positions at that next meeting, including the long open treasurer position. And like Bobby kind of indicated, that a lot of our attention is going to focus towards Lentil Festival and the Friday night downtown portion of the event, which has been usually organized by the DPA. And again, all the events that Bobby also mentioned. CIP update, I went to my first CIP meeting earlier this month, and it was like drinking through the fire hose. Like, wow. Next up is the planning. We did end up approving it. I was like still in the back of my head, I'm still drinking through the fire hose, but whatever. It's like we did end up approving it. It's going to planning commission next, and it'll probably come back here for us. And I think that's it for me.
Do you have any comments?
Nope.
Okay.
Could I ask a question of DPA?
I think that's fine.
So
yeah.
we were driving through on Grand Avenue Saturday around noon, and it was snowing, raining, hailing, all at the same time. And I thought about the people I'm like, well, maybe they kept it inside this Saturday, farmer's market. No, they were outside. How was it? Were you there, or did it go okay? Or you were there?
It's off and on went okay.
Okay.
Like, when the weather was getting nice, from what I heard, everybody kind of came rushing out and really was supportive.
Okay.
And then I think like the clay throwdown went really well, but it had to be moved inside,
Yeah.
so. The people that came out, they came out in force.
Well, this Saturday is supposed to be really, really nice, so everybody go downtown to the farmer's market.
Yes.
Cool. All right, Eric, you're up.
Let me just skip in. I'm on 2 committees, Solid Waste and Palouse R2PO. They meet on a quarterly basis, so I haven't met since my last one, but a few some information I can share. I will be touring the, since it is a little warmer, I will be touring our solid waste facility, transfer station, and landfill. I want to open this up to any other council members who would be interested. David Nails runs an awesome ship over there. And then the R2PO, much like we have the CIP, the R2PO, which stands for the Palouse Regional Transportation Planning Organization, also has a plan of projects that they approve. That was passed in February. We have an awesome new website. Probably the biggest thing is the draft is available for the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. This is a state, I believe it's a state mandated plan that identifies needs of agencies and users like seniors, people with disabilities, and youth, and how the region is supporting those individuals. Big number that stood out to me is 85% of respondents of who contributed to that survey were extremely interested in a reliable quad city connection, Pullman, Moscow, Lewiston, Clarkson. That should be no new news to us, but the wanting and the need is still very much there. I know Coast has left a big gap in services, but I appreciate all the other agencies that have stepped up, but there's still a really large gap left by Coast. So that's it for me.
Any comments?
No, I appreciate the comments about Pullman Pride. If folks want to volunteer on June 6th, reach out to the Intersectional Advocacy Coalition on Facebook or next door.
Great, awesome. Trevor?
Thanks. So I'm on two committees. The Board for Volunteer Firefighters and Reserve Officers, we've not met so far. The other one that I serve on is Lodging Tax Advisory Commission, and we do meet regularly. We most recently met last week. We have a special meeting next week where we will kind of go through some additional grants that we weren't able to get through last week when we met. I think what's cool about Lodging Tax Advisory Commission is that we're able to look at grant applications from organizations here within Pullman. One of the ones that we awarded, or at least made the recommendation for council and council awarded, was for the farmers market, or sorry, the Pullman Market on Main, and kind of helping them get some of their feet under them. DPA, the Pullman Commerce or Chamber, and sort of various other sporting events as well. So it's really cool to see all those applications come in and for us to be able to support those organizations. So,
Any other comments?
I think the only, I have a couple. Well, I think, Nathan, you might mention this, is the groundbreaking ceremony for the Veterans Memorial Park on Memorial Day. So if you have the chance to come out, it's at 11 a.m. And then my second one is a personal one. It's my dad's birthday today, so I don't know if you're watching, but happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday, Dad. Okay, super. All right. For mine, you all have such a heavy lift. I'm on Palouse Basin Aquifer Commission, and we actually had our communications meeting today, right before this meeting, and we're continuing to reach out about the importance of taking care of our water supply here on the Palouse in our region. As you already heard, our watering season is going to be taking an effect. I know Moscow is starting theirs as well. And so we're trying to continue being good stewards of, our water here. So as far as personal comments, I'll start with the foot in the mouth. So last time, I made a mistake. And so we were discussing goal setting. And Eric and Tawny and others had mentioned how important the College Hill Association, the College Hill Core is to, you know, the environment and that we don't want it having a bunch of high rises, looking at design standards. So we were discussing that. And I did not speak appropriately. I had made some comments regarding that was favoritism for us to be just looking at one organization's goals. And after the meeting, and I thought about it, and I'm glad also that CHA reached out to me. Well, all of us actually. After the meeting, I was like, what the heck was I saying? Goal setting is essentially us taking feedback from organizations and individuals. And so I made that mistake. I apologize. I called them. I apologized to Allison. And, you know, it's one of those things that even after 18 years on counseling, it happens. And so my apologies. The goal setting is absolutely for organizations and individuals and departments to bring goals. It is not favoritism. There's no excuse for it, so my apologies. We love your ideas, everybody. So it was a mistake. So that, and then the other comment is there will be a ruck for the fallen, a ruck right before the Memorial Day groundbreaking. Because the mayor is out, I'll be doing the comments before the groundbreaking. And don't worry, I'll try and keep them short. I know it's a surprise for me. But I will try and do the ruck, and if anybody else is able to as well, or would like to, it's going to happen at 8:30. And then it's a 10K. So what, about 6.1 miles, I think, like that. So if anybody's interested, cool. If not, all right, you'll see me sweaty at the groundbreaking. So, all right, I think that's it for our committee reports. Now it is our update from the Humane Society. Amy, it's been such a long time, my friend.
Good evening. I thought I would just introduce our representatives from the County Humane Society, President Amy Griffin and Vice President Lori Jordan. I'm going to let them take the show on this. I did want to make a couple comments that we've worked closely with them at the police department because of our role with animal control, and they've done a great job, and we've been very happy. So, floor is yours.
Thank you for having us today. I'm going to jump right in. We made you a little presentation and we'll just kind of work our way through it. So the Whitman County Humane Society of 2025, we provide a lot of community support to Whitman County as well as the city of Pullman. In 2025, we had about 600 animals come into our care. 508 of those animals were adopted into loving homes. About 80 of those animals were strays that were reunited with their family, which is also amazing. We adopted out 96 dogs, 403 cats, and 9 feathered friends and little critters. So something that's not a cat or dog. For the city of Pullman, we took in 80 adult dogs, 12 puppies, 55 adult cats, and 68 kittens. Of those animals, 188 of them were strays, 8 of them were seized by the City of Pullman Police Department, and 21 of them were surrendered by owners who lived in Pullman. So majority of the dogs that were cats that we're getting from Pullman tend to be strays. What's provided to each of these shelter pets? Medical support, vaccinations, microchip, spayed or neutered if they aren't already. High-quality food. We began partnering with Hills in 2024. They provide us a significant discount to our food that we provide to all of our pets. This food is highly recommended by veterinarians. We found after we started feeding it that it significantly reduced our medical bills. Animals not having upset stomachs, animals not having skin issues, rashes, other things. These were significantly eliminated once we started feeding a consistent diet rather than just the random whatever was purchased at the grocery store. We found that we spent about the same amount, even though Hills is a very expensive food. The discount provided by the partnership with them negated that expense. We also provide regular enrichment in shelter. Behavior support is limited, but we make it as available as we can. We also provide post-adoption support and supplies. So some of the things that we have brought in recent, we have an adoption packet now that has resources to people to get training at Tail Waggin' Adventures in Pullman, local veterinary clinics, and other resources that a new pet owner might need. Some other things, we started partnering for our behavior support. There's a program in Idaho called PAWS that can help take in dogs that are having significant behavior problems and difficulty being adopted. And so we've been working really hard to find resources to support us and then thus support the animals in our care to make them more adoptable for families and individuals. What does it mean when I say we're providing medical support? That can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes it's simply we're spaying and neutering them and providing basic vaccines, vaccines like rabies, which is required by state law. We also are providing other vaccines to help prevent disease spread. We also, unfortunately, very often are providing medical support for things like fleas, ticks, ear infections, other minor issues. Our policy is that we don't intake healthy cats because cats are allowed to roam free in Whitman County and the city of Pullman. So when you see that we've taken in 68 cats, or 68 kittens and 55 adult cats, more than likely they all came in with some kind of injury, illness, or sickness that caused them to not be safe out on the roadway. Some of those kittens, it may have been they were too young to survive on their own, but then we're providing that bottle care, which becomes very expensive. So those cats and adult cats are all receiving extensive medical treatment, often being seen by our veterinary team, which is not in-house. We have to outsource all of our veterinary care, so they can become very expensive medically very quickly. So, but that's something we provide, and we don't pass that cost on to the future adopter. So all of those things are included in our adoption prices, and if a kitten comes to us healthy and happy and just needs light support to get to an age that it can be adopted, spayed, neutered, and all its vaccines, versus a cat that maybe needs emergency surgery. Those are all things that we take on for our citizens. Why all this matters, I think in Pullman it's not as big of a problem in some of the other areas of our community, but having a healthy animal population helps reduce disease. We don't want disease to be getting into the everyday population. Medical care is becoming more and more expensive, and pet ownership is, something that we aspire to. Some of you have your own pets, and so it's important for us to foster within our community having healthy vaccinated animals so that they aren't spreading disease and whatnot. It causes a strain to our local resources. We have WSU, which is a wonderful resource. We have lots of great local vets, but they're still limited. And if you have a pet, sometimes it can be very difficult to get into your veterinary care. So. Some other things that we provide, we have lots of volunteer opportunities. We partner with WSU frequently, as well as some other organizations. We also have become a hub for people who need community service due to the courts ordering it. And so we frequently offer that to those people who need an extra step up. And so we provide that for them and are able to accommodate what they need to meet their court mandate. Some other volunteer opportunities for people who don't have dogs and can't have dogs themselves, but still are dog lovers. We've started a Doggy Day Out program. And so this program allows you to come, whether you come for an hour and just hang out with the dog in our facility, or you can take the dog for a Doggy Day Out. And so this has been a really important for our community and the city of Pullman. Lots of apartments, people, feeling like they can't own a dog right now, different life circumstances. So this program allows them to have that day where they get to be covered in fur and slobber and go play fetch or go for a walk or have that snuggle on the couch. And I think this is really important for mental health, which a lot of people struggle with in today's society. And this has brought a lot of people a lot of joy and helps our dogs as well. So it's a great program. Some other things we provide is education to the community. This year we put on a bottle baby class for our citizens in Pullman to learn more about what to do when you find a kitten, when to pick up the kitten and take it home or to bring it to us, versus when you should just leave it alone, let the mother cat come back and find its kitten. We also get lots of phone calls educating people on what they need to be doing with animals that they might find at large, as well as some basic, you just adopted this dog and now I don't know what to do. They can come to us and we can provide some education for them on their new pet, some enrichment options if they're struggling with that. Another resource we provide to the community is our pet food bank. This is offered to anyone in Pullman or Whitman County. It's a donation-based building, if you will. And so we provide cat food, litter, dog food, canned food, sometimes specialty foods if it's been donated. And so this is primarily used by citizens of Pullman and is really helpful for people when they're in that crisis. Maybe they're having a food shortage themselves, to keep their pet in their home a little longer and provide them some resources. And so that's really important. Some other things that we have as well, we partner with, it was called Rural Resources, now it's called Community Job Source. They were based out of Clarkston. That office closed down due to budget cuts. It's a government-ran agency that is now, there's a base out of Walla Walla. So we partner with them. We're one of their biggest organizations that they partner with for Pullman. What the organization does is they pay people and provide them with job opportunities and provide them with skills, building resumes and those kinds of things. And then 20 hours a week they come and work for us. We provide them job skills, train them, teach them how to work in an environment, all the things you need to do to be a good employee so you can keep your job. And so we work with them very closely, and we've had numerous people go through our program and be successful and be able to go on and be successful citizens and get jobs. And so I think that's a really shining light to our community. Even though it got shut down in our area, we've been able to reach out to the Walla Walla branch because they still get referrals for people who live in Pullman. There's not tons of opportunities for them, and so we've been able to fill that gap. We also offer low-cost vaccination clinics, not as frequently as we'd like, but it is something that we have offered. Last year we had a really successful clinic in Pullman, and lots of people utilized that. Another thing we offer is a SNAP program is what we call it, so a Spay Neuter Assistant program. And so we provide people with a coupon, and just about every vet clinic in Pullman is willing to accept those coupons. And so then we can assist people in getting their animals spayed or neutered if they're in financial, aren't able to afford it. And then our other exciting program that we have is our Pooch Park. We are doing a lot of things to keep it up and running and great for our dogs. It's a membership-based park, and so you're required to have your dog altered as well as up to date on vaccines, which is different than most dog parks. Most dog parks, it's a free-for-all. If there's incidents, and you're kind of there at your own risk. Still your own risk at our park. Obviously, dogs are unpredictable, but this provides a safer place and a safer option for dogs and people in Pullman to bring their dogs, to be off leash, to know that the other dogs that they're around are going to be altered, are going to be vaccinated, as well as there's some oversight to the park. So if there are incidences, hey, if my dog gets attacked, that dog's not going to be allowed back here, which provides a lot of safety and you know, good well-being when you're a pet parent. So I think those are all of my points. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Questions, comments?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for this. It's wonderful. We've adopted 4 cats from the Humane Society over the years.
Love it. Odd numbers are best, I'm told.
Well, not at the same time.
Okay.
It's a long story. Anyway,
Yes.
I have a question though. Some communities have, and I can't, there's an acronym, it's like SNAP, or it's where like feral cats will be picked up and altered, spayed or neutered, and then their ear will be clipped, and then they'll be released back. Do we have any sort of program like that in the area?
Yes, so that's a TNR program, trap, neuter, release.
There we go, thank you.
Yep, and we have that program, it's on pause right now. We don't, because of funding.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would love to bring it back, but it's an expensive thing to do.
Yes.
And, you know, people don't necessarily have the money to fork out for stray animals. So
Right.
it's something we'd like to bring back if we could get to that financial position.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead, Trevor.
I have just a couple questions. The pooch part, how much is that for someone if they were interested in enrolling in?
Yeah, so we just brought back our one-year membership. So one-year membership is $100 a year, or our trimester membership is $40
And is it per dog or per household?
per household.
Okay, great. And then if someone's looking to support the Humane Society and they wanted to do that monetarily, how could they go about doing something like that?
Yeah, so they can mail us a check, drop a check off at our location on Old Moscow Road, or they can go to our website, whitmanpets.org, and there's a donation link on there, which is the easiest method, and they can make we have 2 options. You can make a one-time donation, or you can set yourself up for a monthly donation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A few questions. Maybe I don't want to know this, but what happens to the healthy cats? Didn't you say you can't take healthy cats in?
Yes. So for healthy cats, most of the time, well, I shouldn't say most of the time, they're returned to where they were found. And if they were chipped, then we'll make every effort to contact owners. I would say as someone who's had a healthy cat who's been taken to the Humane Society, usually healthy adult cats, their owners are aware of their whereabouts outside, and usually they make their way back home.
Okay. Of the 84 pets reunited with their original owners, is that 84 unique pets, or like how often do you have repeat customers?
Not often, like a handful that happens, but not often.
Okay. And then do we get a discount on, do you guys get a discount on veterinary care, kind of like you do with food?
We do.
Okay.
Yes. We have lots of partners who are very good to us, and they provide us significant discounts.
Awesome. And then one last thing, Trevor and Tani and I went to college, I think it was a College Hill, or I don't actually remember what it was, but we went to some event up on College Hill to listen to different ideas, and one of the things, there was a bunch of people from the Greek community that were there, and there was a pretty big discussion about like that all the people in fraternities and sororities have to get volunteer hours, and they struggle to find the volunteer opportunities. So just an idea, like basically everyone that was in one of those mentioned that they wanted to do more, and I'm sure something like Humane Society would be a great place for them to, right? I mean, that's a fun kind of volunteer. It's
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
right? Most fun, right?
Most of the
I'm
time.
sure,
Sometimes
yeah.
they gotta clean up dog poop, and that's not easy. But yes, no, we do partner with them very frequently, and we actually, because of Greek life, we started so it's every other Saturday. We have small group volunteer days. So we have, on our website, you can sign up for volunteer shifts that are 2 hours long in the morning or the afternoon, whether that be general care, which is cleaning up dog poop, cleaning up cat poop, doing dishes, laundry, those kinds of things, or there's the dog enrichment. where you can spend an hour doing dog enrichment. And so we have that every day of the week that they can come sign up for, as well as now we've started those every other Saturdays. They can come in as groups, up to 20 people can come, which is kind of for the Greek life, because they like to come in pairs or they don't want to come alone. So that is, I think, helped them with their hours. So, yeah, you had a question?
You answered it, thank you.
Okay, yes.
I just have one more. I think it's important to raise awareness about your annual fundraiser, which has the best name ever, Furball and Yappy Hour.
Yes.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about how it went this year for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite event. I have ran it. This is my second year running Furball and Yappy Hour. This year I would say was very successful. We raised a lot of funds. We made a lot of new connections with local business owners for our sponsorships. We have a tiered system for sponsors, and this year, first time in my history that we had people actually reaching out to us saying, hey, I want to be a part of this, and I think that was a really special thing. People were excited to be there, excited to participate, excited to donate. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year. Our goal is to raise 25% of our yearly funds, which we didn't quite make this year, but I would say that it was a very successful event, and there were lots of positives that came out of it.
Good, thank you.
That's February every year. Yes.
February.
February 20th, 2027, if you're ready. We started planning, we had our first meeting yesterday, so if you would like to come, we'd love to see you there.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, well, I'm going to make a comment then. Both of you, thank you so much for coming. And I absolutely, Amy is so hardworking. I just have to mention, every time I'm there with Chance, which is
every day.
Oh, yeah, almost every day, she's out there working on something or working with the dogs or just, it's phenomenal, the amount of work you put in. And I will say, for me, it's near and dear, my pup, Chance, I'm sure I've talked about. If not, let me tell you, he was abandoned on the Moscow-Pullman highway and brought into, the Humane Society. And he was abandoned at about, from what they could tell, 4 months-ish. And it's funny because one of the first times I took him walking on WSU, there was a young lady who stopped me and said, "Is that Bongo?" And I said, wait, Bongo? And that was his old name because he had just bounced around the walls at the Humane Society. And she said, "I fostered him. Can I take a picture with him?" So it's very cool because it touches a lot of different, age groups in our, community, and rescues, it's so important, and they're so loving. The one thing I will want to, that I do want to ask is, we've noticed more foxes in our area. And I know there are cats that people have outdoors, and I was just helping a young man try and find his own cat. And there was, I told him there's foxes around here. It's tough. You got to kind of watch that. Have you found challenges at all, reports or whatnot, for the Humane Society with foxes and so on?
No. Not that I'm aware of, and I think they coexist better than you would think.
Okay.
But I don't know that we have any data behind fox versus kitty interactions.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
I think
good
the
news.
biggest thing to remember with foxes and any predator, that they're not going to want to get hurt.
Yeah.
Catch something that's difficult. So a full-grown cat's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
So they would prefer to go get the mice and the frogs and eat the cat food you leave out of the cat versus probably taking on an adult cat.
Okay.
One is rumor.
Oh, well, thank you for correcting that, especially,
I mean, it can definitely happen. Obviously, they are predators and things can happen, especially when they're being babies and stuff. But I think that a lot of that, just like people think great horned owls do the same thing, doesn't really happen that often. So It's just an educational thing, and it wouldn't affect us really because in the city of Pullman, free roaming cats is legal. You don't have to collar your cat or keep it inside or anything. And so if a cat ran away and got hit by a car versus just ran away and someone picked it up and thought it was a stray and then kept it, that's where most of them are going.
Well, thank you for correcting me and enlightening me, because I was under that impression. So, wow, okay, cool. Well, thank you both for coming and taking your time. Chief, thank you for bringing them up and here and guiding them. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. If anybody ever wants a tour, stop by, talk to us, let us know. We're open at any time. Or if you want to foster a dog or a cat. We have a million kittens right now.
And go to the Pooch Park.
I think we're at
It's
56
awesome.
or 57 kittens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kitten season, so we're
All right, well, thank you for
Great.
having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. All right. Scharnhorst, you're up, buddy. Oh, you brought back up.
He's primary. Go-to guy. There's should be coming up here soon. Presentation. It's very, very short. Overviews everything that was in the packet. I put pictures up there so that people could be entertained. Well, good evening, council. Thank you for your time. Andrew and I are here with the Fire Department's 2025 annual report, and we're going to run through some of the highlights. There was a lot that took place last year. We had some staffing changes. You probably know about those. But we had a lot of successes too with our staffing. We had 6 members of the department who got their 20 years of service with the city. We had a handful more with 10 years. In fact, Captain Parrish was 20 and Firefighter Manager Joe Branson was 10, if I have that correct, according to the data.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, we went through and retired Chief Heston early in the year, and he had a long tenure here with the city as well. So obviously everything we do is key with our personnel, what they bring to the table and how they serve this community. So we'll work through these slides. Again, everything was in the packet. So at the very top of this slide, you'll see that call volume over the last 5 years, starting in 2022, really was consistent. It's plus or minus a couple of percentage points there, but nothing dramatic. You might just say it's stabilized for a while. And maybe that will change based upon successes that happen with a football team up on campus, right? Sometimes that really does change our demographics of how things work. But as you see in the pie chart, EMS is still a primary role of what we do for the community. 76% of our call volume was related to EMS. And that picture there is, I wouldn't say members of our rescue task force, because every member of the department is on our rescue task force. But that was at a full functional exercise we did last fall in Colfax with all the responders and law enforcement partners in emergency management and WITCOM for the county. And the key thing here is that we demonstrated the efficiency that a rescue task force that is properly equipped and outfitted with PPE and equipment can bring to those situations. And I thought it was a great picture because just them standing proud with what they were able to accomplish that day and demonstrate to the rest of the county that isn't as well equipped as the members of the Pullman Fire Department. And then by district or by zones area, you see that the quadrants are broken out there as well as WSU is separated out. So roughly 30% of the calls happened on the northeast quadrant, and that is not including Washington State University, which is there at 15%. So a substantial amount of calls happen up in those areas. And then our partners that we also provide ambulance service to, Whitman County Fire District 4, which is up towards Palouse, and Whitman County Fire District 12, which surrounds the city of Pullman. And we do ALS transport for them as well as mutual aid. And I didn't say at the very beginning, but if you have interruptions and questions, wait till Andrew's and knock him off the back. No, by all means, I understand that if you don't ask it right away, you might forget to make that note or something. So don't hesitate to pop your hand up.
Okay.
Yes.
So for the Northeast, how much of that is like apartments versus how much of that is like the port? You're right, like, because there's bigger businesses up there. And then there's also lots of apartments that maybe isn't officially WSU, but mostly students.
So we didn't come tonight prepared with a breakout of which.
If you had to guess, like, is it like mostly apartments, mostly?
It'd be mostly residential areas.
Yeah.
The port does have its number of calls, but nothing significant that would skew any of these data points. Because if most of our calls are medical, then most of the calls in the port are medical reasons as well. There are fire alarms in those buildings. We do responses for that reason, but most of the time it's a medical issue that our personnel are responding for.
Okay.
And if you want me to guess?
No, most
7.5%.
counts as good enough for me. Like,
Closest without going over.
yeah, that's right. Okay, one more quick question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. What if you had to like map it out? Just recognizing. Sorry, I should probably send these questions early. Like, how much does it vary based on like, it's like, is football season like twice as busy as summer because it's like lots of people and lots of chaos, or it's summer because it's like hot and there's more fires and that kind of stuff, even though the students are gone, or spring there's less of the like big events? Like, how, like,
Yes.
what does that look like in terms of the,
No, that's a question I think I'm able to respond to.
Okay.
And I should say my answer is both the same as what I'll say for the historics on all of those. If you go back years, those percentages play out over the years almost consistently. And historically, September is our largest month for call volume. And that correlates with the student population coming back, but also it's nice out, more people are outside. There is football involved in that, but football is spread out, 6 games starting late August through middle of November now. And so it just depends on where those reside, but the football games themselves, like in the stadium itself, doesn't create the call volume that it used to historically. There's been games where we had over 40 calls for service within the stadium alone, let alone the rest of the city. We're averaging maybe 6 to 8 calls in the stadium now. But September is by far the peak of our call volume when you map it out by month throughout the year. August as well, and then October, and then it tapers off after that to the rest of the months. So if you're looking for that 1 month, it'd be September.
thanks.
Our community involvement has, I'd say, struggled the last couple of budget cycles just due to the reductions we've had to make. And I really want to give a shout out to Whitman County Public Health, because all of those CPR classes that you see, if they're both classes delivered and community classes, are funded for the equipment and the instructor overtime through a grant that they received and we were able to operate under. So it allowed us to continue that mission of public outreach to provide that service to the community, as well as the car seat installations. They were able to provide, our administrative specialist, Kristen Lockler, she provides car seat installations and inspections for the community. And so those car seats are, I mean, that's a big number. That's the largest we've ever had. And she's doing great work there, traveling out to the stations. We hosted an event where we did a recertification for the region for car seat installation technicians. And so they really have helped us out to maintain that public presence of doing that education and CPR AED courses for the public. So shout out to them, because that's been awesome that we're able to still do that. About the community involvement too, you see the numbers there that we had a number of ride-alongs. We're really encouraging that ride-along component for anybody in the community or the region to come and explore, because it serves a lot of purposes, from not only recruitment when we have students from the EMT program or paramedic program down in the valley, or maybe even Spokane come and just see what we offer. That's how you really can sell your program. But just for the citizens coming and seeing how we provide our services and talking to them so they understand the scope of the professionalism that our members deliver on a daily basis. Station tours, those are great. Classes like Miss Jean's class, they always have a presence there, and it's just, they always provide the picture banner afterwards of all the firefighters interacting with the kids, and it's super fun.
It's my turn. Yes. All right. So the fire department has really 3 areas of operations. So we have operations, responding to calls, responding to incidents, Then we have training. What are we going to do when we actually get to the incident, and do we know what we're supposed to do? And then we have everything else. And so when budgets start to crunch, sometimes training is one of those things that's just kind of squeezed out. But the fire department, and I will give a shout out to the company officers, the firefighters, the senior firefighters, they have done an incredible job of bringing the training back in-house and making sure that we're staying up on our skills. So one thing that you'll notice here is the technical rescue side has a ton of hours in there. That is because we received an AFG grant, and we were able to bring a rope rescue class down here. And we also just finished a confined space class with that same grant last week. And so that allows us to train and learn things, or if we already know those things, it allows us to get some repetitions so that we're more efficient, we're better at it. Because one of the things that you have to remember with training is, and the fire department especially, is there's no redos. It's not a draft. When we're called there, it is a cognitive exercise with irreversible conditions. Sorry, quote kind of gave way, but so it's cognitive work performed in irreversible conditions. So that means that we have to get it right every single time. Doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter if we just ran 20 calls, we have to get it right every single time. And some of those things that we are training on are very, very technical. We are out in the field. We are doing surgical trachs on patients. We are doing finger thoracostomies, which is the same thing as doing a chest tube, just without the chest tube. Okay, so those are the things that we're doing. We're doing point of care ultrasound for the patrons around and in Pullman. So we are being very, very progressive with all of our skills, EMS and fire. But in order to do that, we have to train all the time. And so again, the 52% more training per firefighter versus 2024, that's not including the self-led training. This is just company level training or something that was required that they do via the department. And so the fact that they stepped up and did those, couldn't be more proud. So. All right.
I have another, sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm just going
Do
to
it.
keep asking dumb questions. The number of hours that were in training, I'm surprised the EMS type one, you know, given that like one of the previous slides said 75% of calls were EMS calls. How do you guys decide the volume of training versus the type of calls?
Sure, and that's a great question. So again, that number doesn't include the self-led training, and a lot of EMS training is self-led. It's a lot of online training and a lot of just going and kind of doing the repetitions and the skills maintenance. And unfortunately, when that is self-led, it doesn't always get documented the best. So that's why the numbers are a little bit lower. But the other part of that is the low frequency, high consequences training that we do. There is a lot of that in the EMS, but there's significantly more in fire and confined space technical rescue. And so that's why we train on those things that we don't see them a lot, but we still have to be really, really good at performing the skill. Versus EMS, we are seeing it all the time, and so we don't have to train quite as much on those as a team. We still train individually. Yes.
Sorry, I would like to piggyback on one of Brian's first questions about September. So also in September, I'm a lot busier and I hire all part-time staff. So I can hire 10 extra people, work them through September, and then a lot of them, you know, can drop down to like one shift. They're not utilizing me to pay for a home and their family and that sort of stuff. you don't have the same sort of budget for just being able to hire people and bring them on. I'm sorry, this is kind of a journey because I don't really know exactly what I'm trying to ask, but how do you deal with budget constraints and staffing when you have a month that you have so much more needs than versus months where you don't have quite as much need? Because I can just bring more people on, right? Like I don't have like that sort of budget constraint that the city does. I can just be like, oh, I'm busy this month, I need more people. And I know you guys can't just be like, I need a new firefighter today.
Well, it's almost like the opposite, right? It's like your busy month, it's like, oh, I actually have more budget to pay for the extra part-time work, and you guys don't get, you don't get paid for showing up for EMS or fire, so.
So how do you deal with the variance in staffing as far as like the budget? Just because we're learning about budget stuff, how is that?
So there's a lot of layers to this.
Sorry.
We have flexibility in our scheduling to forecast where the high call volumes are. In September, we know that it's going to be busier on Fridays and Saturdays. And as we work through the scheduling, we have the system calls debit days, and this is for the career firefighters. Within a FLSA period, we can select the days that that we want to staff up or just put additional people on. So that's been a combination of both in the past of saying we're going to stack it heavy with debit days, and or we're going to guarantee you with a staff up, where that means if somebody calls in sick, then we will bring back overtime to maintain a higher level. There's also a contractual basis to that on football game days where we have to hire back additional people for 24 hours to have the numbers in the system, just because that's what's required. So on those weekends, we try to increase the staffing on the ambulances because that's where the call volume is. The ability to hire back, no, that's in regards to new members. There's so much training that it takes months to get somebody to be able to be in compliance with the state rules and laws before they can even be operational to respond on various types of calls. So it is a challenge that we've been able to handle. We would utilize everything that we have available. And if you're talking about moving forward into this coming September, to be determined. The staffing challenges are going to be real and present, and the ability to work outside of minimum staffing, you kind of touched on that a little bit. Last year in 2025, we were at minimum staffing 87% of the time. That's just the facts. That's what it is. And that changes when, if you were to include those staff up weekends for football games, closer to 93% of the time then we're at minimum staffing. So we have to utilize our career members because that's what our staffing model has been built on and based on for as long as I've been here. So with that minimum staffing model, we utilize our debits as well as choose to pay overtime to ensure that we have the numbers that are needed for forecasted events like a small city moving into a football stadium for a day. Because that's literally what it is. If you get up to 30,000 people, that's the size of the city of Pullman in one location. So we have to manage both of those components at the same time on those days, and just doing forecasting on where the call volume is going to be greatest. And then outside of that, we have to rely on our mutual aid partners. That's a brief one layer of that onion I tried to touch.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
You need to understand. I hope if I'm not going to explain it well, I know he's going to.
Okay.
All right, so fire prevention. So this is our fire marshal and deputy fire marshal. A two-person division, but they have, during 2025, they have worked to automate most things and try and make things easier for businesses, for the constituents, whomever is utilizing the system. And so they went with an online permit process, which has helped a lot. A lot of the contractors really like that. And they are doing their best to do, the WSRB inspections are just business inspections, annual business inspections, that the Washington State Survey and Ratings Bureau looks at those and says, hey, how many of these businesses are you getting into annually? And it's one that we have never scored very high on because we just don't have the staff to do it. And in order to get credit for those, you have to be a certified fire inspector. You can't just go out and do the company level inspections unless you have the inspector certified person to get full credit. So that's why it's really hard with a bureau of 2 to get really high on those inspections. The fire investigations, one incredible thing that we have in Pullman is we have the 2 certified fire investigators in Whitman County. They're the only 2. And so they go across Whitman County to assist other agencies. And we really appreciate their work on maintaining those certifications because it is difficult to get certified in fire investigations. So the public education program just goes back to the CPR and just going out to the schools and making sure that they're getting out in the public. Other than that, that's pretty much it, unless you guys have questions on the fire prevention side of things.
Shifting gears a little bit, talking about what the department did last year in regards to what we brought in new. And you've seen the big red shiny thing driving around. It's labeled a 2024 engine, but I put it up here because it really only went in service in 2025. And this is replacing our 1999 engine that has since been surplused and is out of the fleet. This engine was intentionally a much simpler design. The spec committee took the feedback from the firefighters, and it was heard very well that the 13 and 16 engines they had some issues with technology. So this is a simpler engine by design. It has hard linkage to all the ports. There's only one piece of electronic valvage on it, and it might be said that the most technology it has is an LED light. Outside of the engine and everything else. It's not that simple. But really scale it back. And the key point is the firefighters have to trust this thing is going to be able to give them water when they go into a hazardous environment. And that trust has been eroded on some of the earlier engines before they had some large, significant retros done to them. But it brought a lot of modern safety features too. It still has airbags in it, which isn't always common in fire apparatus. Not only steering wheel, but wind side protection as well, and rollover protection, as well as the ergonomics. You see a little compartment there above that front wheel, and that's by design to where the firefighters can put their turnouts. So they're not in the cab area because of something we aim for, we don't always achieve, but it's called the clean cab concept. Because the turnouts contain carcinogens, and if you put those on the seat, they just sit on the seat, or you touch it, or it's just going around the cab. So worked a lot of that into it. This is through our amortization process, and you see the price there was just a little over $1 million for a fire engine. Substantial purchase for the city, but it's greatly appreciated. And interesting thing is the engine's first fire was a car fire, and I pulled up on scene, and I see 2 lieutenants on it. And I'm like, well, that's not by design. One of the lieutenants was the driver that day, and it worked flawlessly. So all the lieutenants were able to pump on this, which is a great attest to not only their training, but to the engine's manufacturing and ability to be simple. So not very often that we have that. Through the CIP process, we were able to start the replacement of our cardiac monitors, defibrillators. This is almost, you'd say, the heart and soul of what our ALS ambulances have on them. Very similar, almost exactly similar, is what you'll see when you go into the emergency department. And we strive for that. It is a seamless healthcare that we take the ER and we put them into the field for 20 to 30 minutes, same level of care, and then we go to the ED, and we are part of the healthcare team there as well. We'll stay there and work with their team to help with any of this. We'll operate their equipment, we'll do the procedures as well. But this device, we had some good fortune with the timing of it. The device, the Xenix series, was not out on the market yet, hadn't received FDA approval. So we had to engage into a contract to purchase the model, that's on the market that wasn't the newest, but once this got FDA approval, they were able to upgrade us for free to this model, which was a substantial savings. We wouldn't have been able to afford it otherwise based upon the CIP dollars that we had allocated years before. But one of these modelers, just one, is that $56,000. So they do everything for us. They are a great tool, and thank you for allowing for the investment to keep this primary piece of equipment frontline and up to date. We also purchased two of three. The third purchase will happen next year in 2027. This is CIP funds. And the picture there isn't representative of it, but what we did was we continued our purchase of our battery-operated extrication equipment, Jaws of Life, if you've heard that. The reason we're moving to that is because of the reliability. They're quieter. Right now, the picture you see, there's a hose going into the tool that's on top of the car. Well, it was that exact training episode last year where that hose, over time, it gets weak and it kinks. And hydraulic hoses that kink don't have flow and pressure, and you can't utilize the tool at its fullest extent. And so the tools that replace this are able to be quiet. When you're not using them, they're not making noise. Versus there's a gas power generator running all the time. You're limited in length by how far you can move. So if you have a car that goes 200 feet off into the field, you'll have to carry a generator and hose and the tool, hundreds of pounds, 200 feet into that field. But the battery powered are cleaner, the quieter, and they're so much more efficient to our operations. And last year we were able to put $80,000 toward that. And next year we'll complete our purchase to outfit all of our equipment with battery operated cutters, spreaders, and rams. It'll be just a great addition to our fleet and how we're moving forward with that.
All right, back to the medical training, and how do we do medical training when we don't have full sim labs? Well, we try and bring them to us. So we've been very fortunate that some of the firefighters have animals that they no longer need, they butcher, and they will donate those lungs and things for us to practice on. Because it allows us, if we have a donated trachea, it allows us to do that surgical crike and actually see if we're getting into the spot that we're supposed to get into. And we can then inflate the lungs. We can show things like called recruitment and just how the breathing and ventilation process is working. So that's one thing. Advanced airway mannequins. So this is really just about repetition and muscle memory. We go back to the waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you have a very serious critical patient that you have to be on the top of your game. You want your muscles just to know what to do. You don't want to have to think about it. And so we invested in quite a few airway mannequins so we could have multiple stations of people just doing intubations and airway maneuvers over and over and over. The Sim Baby is a high fidelity baby. It goes back to the low frequency, high risk situations. We don't get a ton of serious pediatric calls, thank goodness. But when we do, we need to know what's going on. And this mannequin will cry, it will change colors, it gets warm, it gets cold, and based on whatever treatment you provide, it automatically will change its presentation, and so it allows us to have that real world feedback. Point of care ultrasound, that's another one that we're still working with our medical director. We have it in the field right now, but we're trying to just enhance it and upgrade it using things like AI, that when we're looking at an ultrasound image, the AI will just tell us exactly what we're looking at. We don't have to guess. And so that's coming. But new medication avenues, new surgical procedures, that is all about the ability to provide the same type of treatment that you would find in the emergency room. Our medical director, Dr. Lightfoot, is very progressive, and we have a very good, he trusts us because we train a lot and we're with him, and he sees that we can do the procedures, so he allows us and goes to the state and says, hey, we want these more progressive protocols, and we are able to perform them. The new surgical procedure that we picked up in '25 was the finger thoracostomy. Again, that's basically the same thing as a chest tube, just without the chest tube, or without the tube.
And I imagine the benefit to the patient of being able, the more that you guys can do right there versus waiting till they get to the ER, that probably substantially helps their whatever the outcome for them.
It does, yeah. I think it's every minute that you go without care, your chances of survival drop like 10%. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's a good stat. So, yeah, the faster that we can get that life-saving equipment to the patient and those life-saving procedures, especially like that finger thoracostomy, that might be the only way to save somebody that has just wrecked their motorcycle and destroyed their chest cavity, and they've got too much pressure in there. Opening that up might be the only thing that allows their heart to beat. And so the ability to do that, whether it saves one person, in my career, it's worth it. And it's very simple as long as we can train to do it.
All right, last slide. So as we move through 2026, obviously there's challenges in front of all of us, and the fire department is doing its part and being good partners with the rest of the city and the rest of the city leadership. But it does place strain on our membership and on our system. Our dedicated members are answering every 911 call 24/7. And it's because of their dedication and their professionalism that we're continuing to meet our mission. Andrew mentioned the Washington Survey and Ratings Bureau. There's a lot we're trying to do. We don't mention it much inside the walls of the fire department anymore, but there's key things we have to do to try to preserve our level of 4 so that the insurance rates of all the citizens and the businesses in the town don't change. We're working through the processes. Now's not a great time, but we need to buy a ladder truck. And that's a large bill, but it's not going to get here for some time. And historically, the last couple of re-rates, that ladder truck is taking more and more points away from our rating. And it's going to be at 25 years, and the rating schedule isn't gentle on equipment that old. But we're also doing things like we do every year. We're doing our hydrant inspections. We have to inspect those every year. Hose testing is being done by our crews as well. They do that every year. When they come through, they look at that stuff. We're doing occupancy inspections. We're working with WICOM and the Emergency Communications Committee to make sure our communications are as where they should be, and we're getting there very well. We're also working with the water department on our water distribution system to ensure that the record keeping is there for all the valve inspections. And those are the 4 components, and that's why I mentioned those specifically that we get rated on. Training is a huge one, staffing is a huge one as well in those components. I put contract negotiations up there just because it's an odd year from my perspective that we're into 3 contracts now, because we have IAF Local 1892's contract is up at the end of this year. We're beginning bargaining later this week for representing the reserve firefighters being represented for the first time, as well as the interlocal agreement with Washington State University is up at the end of this year too. So just going to be a negotiation season. And partners is there because council is our partners, city administration, and the community as a whole. We value that partnership. We need and desire feedback from that to assure that our mission is aligned with the needs of the community, but also to hear. We may strive for excellence, but that bar is oh so hard to achieve because you're just always going to be short of it. And if we are short of it, that's okay to tell us about that. It may feel like it's a complaint, and sometimes that's hard to say, but I guarantee you we're going to grow from every complaint that comes our way, and we're going to make sure we learn from that, as well as educate, because sometimes that's just the bridge of understanding the services we do and do not provide. But that education component is so important that we want to make sure that all of our partners understand what it is that we can offer, because we offer a lot of services. It's not easy to call yourself an all-hazards department when people think you just do fire and EMS, but yet we do so much more than that. This job is one that we love, and we're dedicated. We bring compassion to every hand that we hold when we go out and meet our community in their hour of need. But it's very unique, that bond that's immediately established when somebody calls you in the worst day of their life. It's hard, but they will give you their most trusted and valued possessions, and that's unique. But that also takes from our members too. There's an emotional strain that comes with that. And there may not be, and hopefully there will never be, a line of duty death in this city, but there is something that our members give to the community that is unseen. And that's the emotional strain, the mental health, but also knowing that the job will shorten their lives. Long-term cancer is a known byproduct of this profession. And so they're dedicated, they love the community, they're here serving every day. It takes numbers, it takes staff on rigs to make sure that this service continues. Last year, 2,100 calls were concurrent, meaning they happened at the same time, meaning there's probably nothing left in our system to cover the next call that came in. That's a big number. I was surprised when I saw 2,100 out of the 3,700. It's a large amount of numbers, but the dedication of our members continue to meet that mission. We continue to make the calls for service and get back into service to make that next call. I've said it since I became chief. It's kind of weird and silly, but our job is to support the firefighters. No impacts were made to our suppression or prevention budgets outside of plastic fire helmets, because that is what keeps the wheels rolling to serve the community. We will continue to do that to the best of our ability, and we'll continue to serve with passion. That is the end of my our presentation. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Go ahead. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you guys very much and everything that you do.
Go ahead, Ann.
Also that. But I do have another comment, and then I do have a question. The comment is, and you just touched on it with the compassion of your team, is I had an elderly friend who had your EMS folks came in and tended to him last August in his home and then transported him. And it was just, I mean, I had never just seen it roll out like that in front of my eyes. You know, I know what you all do, and but it was really something, and every man was just completely compassionate toward the patient, toward my husband and me, and I really can't state enough how. And you said, you know, it's like an immediate relationship. Well, Reed was on the call and I knew him, you know, but I didn't see him right away. But it's true, when you all walk in the door, it's like, we would give you anything, our firstborn, the puppy, whatever, you know, because we do trust you. And that is a beautiful part of the partnership that you speak of, is that the community and our part of as the partnership is putting our trust in you and supporting you as much as we can. So we very much appreciated. My question is, I know Whitcomb went to a new call system, which I experienced last week when I was going to call in the power pole fire in Johnson. Because I saw it when it flared, and obviously it had already been reported. But it was a little frustrating on my end, because you could tell immediately it was like, welcome, or whatever it said, and then it's like, in a few words, say why you're calling. I don't know, power pole fire or something, you know? And then of course the 911 operator answered, and they said, you know, 911, can you please hold? And I went, yes, I could, right? But that was a little concerning. But I'm just wondering if any of that, if the new system has been working well with your team, or if you've had some hiccups as well, or experienced them?
So I believe what you're speaking of is Whitcomb, you just recently started their trial of an AI answering system for the non-emergent or business line. And if you call 911, you'll go to a dispatcher. But if you call the business line, it will go to an AI, I'm not even going to try to say the name of the company.
Right.
But when it sounds like it almost worked like it should, because when you said fire, it moved you over to a 911 dispatcher.
It did, yes.
Yeah, but if you were to call and say, I have a water leak, it would then prompt you with the next set of questions to make sure and they have all these protocols set up so it knows which community you're calling from. Because you could be in Clarkston, and it's going to have to know what number to tell you to call down there, or how to route you. And that's just a quick example. But if you have a fire, it's okay to call 911.
Well, yeah,
if you have smoke showing, it's okay to call 911.
Yeah.
But I haven't had to call the AI system. There is a little bit of feedback from Wendy Barrett that it's working very well. And they have for lack of a better term, a knob they can turn on how sensitive it is to that. If customers are calling the non-emergency line and they start getting really frustrated, it will detect that and kick them over to an actual call.
Maybe my hesitation was, I was just like, in a few words, it's like, okay, this isn't like pay my bill. You know, this is like.
Right, well, I can understand that
look-
frustration when you're looking at a fire and you're like, you don't even get a dispatch.
I mean, and it was
Yeah.
just, anyway, it wasn't like on fire, it was, but there was a fire inside of it. Anyway, and Avista showed up right away, and so did the guys out in Colton and stuff, so it was fine, the Druffel brothers.
Councilmember Fajarin?
Thank you. Chief, Andrew, department members in the audience, just want to say thank you for keeping our city safe and the sacrifice that your families, and you mentioned it, all the unseen things that members sacrifice in order to keep our city safe. I have a question. Just, I remember how just convoluted the process, or just how big the process is in ordering a truck. So I just wanted, if you know, you can speak a little bit more about it, the lead time, the money, and then how that compares to, and maybe just speak on the age of the fleet that we have right now, the fire trucks.
Sure. So let's talk about the ladder truck. That's probably the best, clearest example in my head. We've been working on the specs. So we have an internal committee that evaluates from the membership what the desired features that they want to keep from our current one, as well as evaluates the market and what's out there. And also then pairs that to the cost of what funds we do have. Some of the stuff, I mean, you have enough money, they'll charge you for it, right? So they've been working on that spec for over a year, coming upon 2 years actually, to narrow it down, and then working with various manufacturers out there. They've come into the station, site visits, we've done tours around through Spokane and other areas to look at the recent trucks that they've received to evaluate what features we liked. But then working with the sales reps, they have to write an entire spec, and that that can take up to 3 months for their engineers to work all that out, to do the weight calculations and hydraulics and overall length and clearance to get us a price. And so right now we're evaluating manufacturers down to 2. That's all that's left that will actually meet our requirements. One of our requirements is height and length. It's got to fit in a station, right? We don't want to order something we can't fit in the station. But it's going to be anywhere from $2.2 to $2.4 million is what they are. And lead time is anywhere from 2.5 to 4 years. Once you order it, it'll take that long to get here. So that would put our ladder truck on the longest term, 30 years old, by the time the new one gets here. So the rest of our fleet, engines, we have a 16 and a 13. And then we have a brush truck, which is new, a couple of years old. And then ambulances after that, 2 22s, an 18, and 2 2012s. And then various staff vehicles after that.
Thank you for that. And the recommended life cycle for trucks is 10 to 15, and then they get put into reserve status. Is that correct?
Not a ladder truck.
Okay, not a ladder truck.
We only have one of those, so it's always frontline.
Okay.
Yes, so after about 15 years, we roll it into the reserve status. On the Washington Survey and Ratings Bureau, 15 years, they're recommending replacement at that point.
Okay. Thank you for those answers.
Councilmember Vance?
Thanks. Yeah, I looked over at him, he's copying my question.
That's fine.
But one of the things that you noted in regards to like the ladder truck is the rate schedule impact. I was wondering if you could dive a little bit more into that and kind of what that impact might look like.
Sure. So when the Washington Survey and Ratings come in, they look at your entire fleet, the age of the fleet. And they're focused only on fire apparatus. EMS apparatus don't count for anything because they don't put out fires. And it's an insurance rating company, so that's what they're going to evaluate, is how quickly you can put out that fire. So they're going to calculate the age of all those vehicles. They're going to look at maintenance records. And sometimes they get really picky on stuff we didn't know got evaluated. Every year it seems like they come up with something we didn't know about. But it happens. So they're going to put that on a scale, and based upon the life cycle of it and the amount of specific equipment you have on it, its service cycle, et cetera, is how they determine through some formula of theirs the score you get for each apparatus, which then goes into the overall fleet score for the agency or the city in this case, to give that fire department. Fire department has one general area that they get a score on. So training hours, number of staff available, number of chiefs available, that's all part of the fire department score, and apparatus is just one part of that.
And does that at all affect insurance costs, premiums, and things like that for residents or businesses in the
Yes.
area? Directly impacts it?
Yes. If our rating goes from a 4 up, like 4 to 5, 5 to 6, hopefully we would never go 4 to 6. But if it did, it would be, you would note it.
So example, in 2018, we were rated, with the ladder truck alone, we got 84% of the points. In 2024, we were related on that ladder, we were re-rated on the ladder truck, and that dropped down to 72% of the points. So it's going to continue that way, just on that one piece of the equipment.
Thank you for that. Any, like, do you foresee any increase in any additional equipment costs? Like, right as time has gone on, things have gotten more expensive. Defib kits, like the Jaws of Life you were showing. Are there any other like big ticket items that are coming down the pipe that you're like, well, these prices just keep going up, and it's, I don't know, it's just tough, or just curious?
The answer is yes. If it says fire on it, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
The next purchases we're going, by schedule, are going to be replacing the 2012 ambulances in the amortization process. So those aren't as expensive, but the market does change, right? And supply and demand in the fire service and EMS has been in flux a little bit. There's a lot of challenges that have happened over the last 5 years. Some of the delivery times for fire engines has been up to almost, they wanted to hit 4.5 or 5 years on some of those manufacturers. And there's just hardships all around when it comes to that. So we have to evaluate that. And, you know, that's one of the questions we have to say is, should we be looking at what other municipalities are ordering and try to time ours to order at the same time with the same type of apparatus so that we're not doing our specialty builds? It's a valid question because it's so expensive to look at those specific single purchases that happen 20 to 25 years.
So that's actually an interesting point. Is there any sort of coalition with like other municipalities nearby, like Moscow, Lewiston, Clarkston, where you guys are doing like a group buy or anything like that?
So most of those group buys are going to be bigger agencies, like they're getting 10 trucks at a time, and we'll just piggyback on those. The situation that we'll run into, especially with the truck, most of the time we are looking for a truck that will meet our staffing model, not Phoenix, where they have 4 to 6 people on a truck.
Sure.
And so our truck has to be able to do the same stuff, but with very limited personnel. And that doesn't mean that we are trying to get something that is really, really fancy. It is absolutely not. Because of the 13 and 16 engine, we didn't like the trying to get major technology and things that were before their time. We want the basics that will work for us, but we also don't want to have a truck that if we roll out with 2 people, it's unusable. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Councilmember McDonald. All right, just briefly, I already, my impatience got the worst of me, so I already asked all my questions. But I do definitely want to echo the thanks to everyone in the fire department and their families for the sacrifice and the commitment. One of the things that when I first started running for city council, one of my first city council meetings was right after 4th of July, and the fireworks company came, and they gave a big shout out. They said the level of professionalism, the connectivity with the community, the ability to work with people and be flexible was like top tier, best that they've ever worked with, and that's really stuck with me. And we are fortunate to live in a great, safe community, and part of that's for sure you guys. And then also, I think the other great part about Pullman is how much people care, and that's shown. And again, I think that really was echoed by that the company that came and gave those comments. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And that's all Darren Jones and Adam. Those guys are working with the fireworks. Yep, they do great work.
Yeah, but we hear it like everywhere, right? There's like the fireworks awesome, but I think that permeates throughout your whole group.
Thank you.
So thank you both. The last comment I'll have is, I appreciate everything. I mean, as a young man, I spent some time in the back of an ambulance, and seizures so that people don't think I'm just jumping into ambulances. It has always been professional, kind, compassionate, and it continues. And unwavering. You've built that trust, you keep it up. I appreciate it. I think also one thing that I want to emphasize is when I was early on city council, there was a hammer facility training, and I know that's done through the union. I think it is up in Tri-Cities, and it gives a unique perspective of just a little bit of what you all have to go through. And I don't know if that's still available or if it is still available. If anyone on the council wants to really understand a little bit about what goes on, use the jaws of life. That was tough, even for a big guy like me. That's a great opportunity to find out. So talk to them about Hammer Facility, that opportunity, really great. And the last thing I will say is Pullman has unique situations that put unique pressures on yourselves, the police as well, but yourselves regarding like the biosafety component of the university. And the fire department has always been involved in that. And I appreciate, both of you staying abreast of all of that stuff, because that is some scary stuff if there's ever something to happen there. And these guys are going to be the ones that have to respond. So we're in a unique situation. So anyways, I was supposed to not talk as much. Okay. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next is consent agenda. Do I have any members that would wish to remove an agenda item for separate discussion? No? Hearing none? Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve consent agenda.
Any second?
Second.
Excuse me, you need
Actually, go ahead, Dee.
Sorry, my bad.
we need a motion and a second to read it by title only,
Oh,
please.
right. I thought
Okay.
it was something different. Okay.
Any motion to read by title only?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, passes.
No?
No? Tad, please read the title. Sorry, this is the first,
No, don't apologize. You're doing great.
Look at, the audience keeps growing.
Entertainment.
Let's see if we can get it done.
Bloopers on YouTube.
Yeah,
All
cut
right.
to the audience.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Pro Tem. Okay, consent agenda items. The first item is a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks number 2011-34355 through 2011-34426, totaling $395,187.91. Second item is a motion to approve disbursements for electronic transfers numbered 745 through 767 for $1,171,713.49. And the final item is a motion to approve the transfer of sales tax revenue to CIP Reserve Fund for 2025 Q4 in the amount of $363,651 and 2026 Q1 in the amount of $215,958.
All right, we're good? Move, right?
Motion to approve
Motion to approve
the consent agenda items.
the consent agenda. All right.
Oh, yeah, I,
So move.
so moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving forward. All right, thank you, Thad. I appreciate your patience and your grace. All right.
It's all good, it's all good.
Next, revenue sources.
All right, tonight we're going to just talk a little bit about revenue sources, a little bit of recent history, and maybe some things to kind of consider going forward as we look at revenues. There's really 6 main sources of revenues, and these are actually dictated by the state. So the state says how you categorize. We don't make up these categories. They're part of the Washington State Auditor's Office. So first one is taxes, and this is one of the largest ones. This includes property tax, sales tax, B&O taxes, excise tax, emissions tax, real estate excise, property tax being the largest one. Then there's licensing and permits, exactly what it sounds like, business license, building permits, parking permits, all of those types of things. Intergovernmental transfers, which is this is from money from another government agency, the biggest one being grants, federal and state grants. But there is shared revenues, there's a few other intergovernmental revenues that we receive. Then there's charges for services. By far our biggest one is utilities, charging for water, sewer, stormwater services. But there is transportation, recreation, some of the other services that we do charge for. Fines and penalties, this is a very, very small portion of our budget, but there's civil penalties, traffic fines, library fines, those types of things. And there's kind of the miscellaneous category, which is everything else. Interest, income, rents, donations that come from private sources all fall in the miscellaneous category. So again, these are all dictated. One of the things, if you looked at this presentation, I tried to put kind of little relevant facts, just kind of as an educational thing for people on each slide. So this is some comparison data, and I broke out the general fund and then I did a city total, so that you can kind of see where we compare to Washington as a whole for all their cities. So the Washington statewide data isn't available for 2025 yet. That happens after filing of 2025 financials, which are due at the end of the month. So that'll be available here in a couple months. But you can see where the percentages of our revenues come compared to Washington cities as a whole. So we're very similar on taxes. In the general fund, our tax percentage is a little bit, our percentage of revenues from taxes is a little bit less than most Washington cities. Licensing permits, both citywide and general fund, are lower. Granted, they're a smaller portion, obviously, of revenues, but our revenue portion is less than most cities. Intergovernmental, which again is primarily grants and state transfers, we're a little bit lower on the general fund. We're actually a fair amount higher on the citywide. A big piece of that is related to the grants that we receive for transit. So we receive quite a bit of grant funding for transit, which kind of helps out. One, obviously making that service available, but then two is that it gives us a little higher percentage in most Washington cities. We're one of only 3 Washington cities that actually operates its own transit system. So charges for services, you see citywide are very similar. Again, with the majority of that revenue coming from utilities. General fund, you see we're quite a bit higher than you would find for most cities. Part of that is we charge WCU for a fair amount of services, mostly because they don't pay property tax, so then we end up charging so things like fire services. And you heard Chief Sean Horst mention that that contract will be coming up for negotiations with WCU. So we do receive fees for service there. Fines and penalties, very, very small portion. We don't administer a lot of fines and penalties in that kind of that miscellaneous category. So you see citywide, we're pretty similar to most Washington cities, a little bit higher on the intergovernment. And you see on the general fund side, we're a little bit higher on the charge of services, a little bit less on taxes. But other than that, pretty comparable. Again, just like most cities, the majority of our general fund revenues are from taxes, and the majority of the citywide total is either taxes or charge for services. So then this is just kind of our primary funds, just to kind of let you know where the revenue comes from. And part of the reason I share this is if you're trying to increase revenues within a given fund, that tells you where most of your revenues come from, right? So general fund, as you saw, consistent in most cities, it's primarily taxes, followed by intergovernmental grant, and which is a lot of it's grants and charges for services. I kind of lumped the other categories because they're so small together. So you notice we had 6 categories. This is really talks about the 3 primary ones. Streets is primarily funded through grants, as well as then taxes. Our civic improvement, which is our lodging tax revenues, which funds all of our tourism, is almost all taxes, not primarily, exclusively a lodging tax. Utilities, as you can see, is almost all fees for service. And then transit is very heavily grant funded. So you see that large grant funded as well as the charge for services. Transit is currently zero in taxes. That is a short-term decision that was made by the council. And you'll see that some numbers go up there in the future. One thing I think is important to know is the civic revenue, the civic improvement revenue, that $1 million a year, that every dollar that goes right back into the community. So that goes to fund events, it goes to fund tourism, the lodging tax group that we talked about that evaluates those grants, that money all goes right back into our community directly into events and tourism. One of the things to note is civic improvement was also one because the revenues have held there compared to a lot of other ones, as well as the importance of trying to attract tourism. That was one area that was not cut. In the budget cuts that we did for expenses, there was no cuts made to civic improvement. So this kind of shows a 6-year history of how our revenues have compared to previous years. So again, the biggest one is property tax. You see a very slight but steady increase. That's very, very common for most cities. They usually see a slight increase in property taxes, and it is the highest source of revenue for most cities. Second highest is sales tax. That one's much more variable. So that's the gray bar you see there. It was good, dipped down, took a big jump up, and now we're seeing this little slight dip down again.
I don't know if we're allowed to ask questions.
Yeah, go ahead, absolutely.
What do you think this looks like compared to other cities? Because I assume most cities saw the same, like pandemic level dip.
Yeah, I don't have comparison data for other cities, but I do allude to kind of some of the dynamics that are later on one of the other slides that are probably consistent with other cities, and then some of the dynamics that are probably unique to Pullman. And I think it's a combination of the two that has created that flow that we have there. But I don't think we're unique, but we do have a few unique dynamics that do impact that. Then you have the B&O tax. So then you see again, you saw the dip kind of into COVID, and then kind of a decent increase, and now fairly stable, slightly leveling off. Excise tax, which we've actually seen a bit of a decrease in, and then other taxes we've seen a bit of a decrease in. And one of the things I wanted to point out is you can see the 6-year average and the 3-year average. I just did this comparison because this is a lot of the issues that we're talking about that are coming to fruition now with our revenue challenges. Has really happened within the last couple years really. So you see for that 6-year average, our total tax revenue was going up on average about 30 to 30% a year. Inflation over that time was about 4%. So the tax revenue wasn't keeping up with inflation, but it was reasonably close. You've now seen our tax revenue almost flat for the last 3 years, and inflation has settled a little bit, although that's creeping back up most recently. But over the 3 years of 23, 24, 25, you see the tax revenue is not keeping up with inflation, and not even close to it. So that's really something. Property taxes, again, we've talked about this. The tax on existing property as a whole can only increase by 1% a year. You see the 3% and the 1.8%, the additional over the 1% is due to new construction. Just to kind of provide a little perspective on what that law means is, had the existing property tax gone up at the same level of inflation over the last 6 years, we would have generated an extra $1.6 million of revenue just in 2026. So that gives you an idea of how that
limitation on property tax compared to inflation has really created that gap. And because sales tax is leveled off, it's really made that gap more impactful. So that is something that a lot of cities, pretty much every Washington city is dealing with that, especially if they're not seeing significant new construction.
So I've wondered this, but I never said it out loud. Maybe it's a dumb question. Probably why I didn't say it out loud before. But you know how, like, in our region, basically, a lot of properties were valued, like, weren't updated as, you know, like, house prices rose. And then there's been a big adjustment, and it's an ongoing adjustment recently. Does that hurt us in a worse way because it's a big spike, but we're only allowed to get a little bit of it? Or how does that play in?
It actually really doesn't affect us much one way or the other. It does, there is a total amount of tax dollars that can only be done for the city as a whole. That's for everything from county to hospital to school district. So it makes some more flexibility there. But again, if everybody's property value stayed the same, our total amount could increase by 1%. If everybody's property value quadruples, our total amount increases by 1%. So it actually really doesn't have much effect on us one way or the other.
Okay.
One of the funding sources that has really increased in Washington cities over the past couple of decades is special districts. And they create some unique revenue opportunities, but of course the revenues are very specific purposes that they must be used for. So we have two special districts. We have a transportation benefit district, which was formed about 3 years ago. In 2025, it brought in about $627,000 of revenue. That was 100% of that revenue was from sales tax. So that's a 1/10 of 1% sales tax that was started about a year and a half ago, or not quite a year and a half ago. Again, that must be used for city transportation improvements, so construction, maintenance, and operations. We didn't spend any of that money the first year. We wanted to build up, and we're now starting to use that money for projects this year currently, as for street and projects and maintenance. The other one is Metro Parks Districts, which is formed, it's probably been a couple decades or probably 15 years ago. That was formed by a vote of the people. Last year's revenue was about $2.6 million. 26% of that was from property taxes. So there is a levy, a property tax levy from Metro Parks. And then last year was significant. We received 74% of that was from donations and interest. That is not normal, but we saw a lot of donations specifically for Veterans Park and Lawson Memory Garden. So again, this has to be used for park services, so land acquisition, development, equipment, operations, and of course the donations have to be used very specifically for that project, so for Veterans Park or Lawson's Gardens, for example, because those two donations to those two projects made up about 1.9 million of that 2.6 million. So, this actually shows on the city's financials as a charge for service. So basically we charge the Metro Park District or we charge the Transportation Benefit District for services. So that's how it shows up. So I'm going to dive a little bit more into the taxes. So property tax, again, as I mentioned, is a top source of revenue. And this might have, talk a little bit about some of the things you're talking about with how the valuation of the properties affect. So currently, typically property taxes are referred to as cost per thousand. I put up cost per 100,000. Not a lot of properties are valued in thousands. They're typically valued in hundreds of thousands. So the regular levy is about $244 per 100,000. So for every $100,000 valuation of property, annually you're paying about $244. That is used for general government purposes. So general government, remember, is police, fire, library, parks, recreation, those types of activities. We generate about $8 million a year off of that. We have a special EMS levy that's about between $33 and $34 per 100,000. That, of course, has to be used specifically for emergency medical services. So that's about $1.1 million a year that generates to help cover emergency medical services in our community. We had the bond levy. That is what was used in 2018 for voter passed bond. The biggest piece of that being this facility and the recreation center. That is a set amount. It generates about $1.05 million. That doesn't per year, and that goes to retire the debt on the bond. And then the Metro Parks levy, which technically isn't a city, but is the Metro Parks district, is about $23, and again, that goes to the city parks. So you can see that the largest portion goes to general government. The other three bonds have very, very specific purposes that they go through. Property tax increases in totals are limited by that 1%. There's a few voter exceptions, so voters can do a levy lid lift to raise that, or there's some cases where they can impose new property taxes. So revenues basically increase through the levy or new construction. Increases very rarely keep up with inflation. So a couple facts, churches, schools, hospitals, and government buildings, including WCU, are not assessed property taxes. As you can imagine, we have a higher percentage of those than most communities do in Washington, particularly because of the amount of property in WCU. So here's kind of, I think, related to what you're talking about, valuation. Those valuations, while property taxes have increased over the past 6 years, specifically a lot in the last couple of years, the amount that we're charging per $1,000 has actually gone down almost 25% over that time. So the amount we're charging per dollar valuation goes down, but of course valuations go up, right? So the total pot's going up, but that's why if your property valuation goes up by 25%, the property taxes, at least the ones you're paying in the city of Pullman, are not going up by 25%.
Really, it's going to the state, right?
It depends. Some of it's going to the state. It depends on what other levies are out there. There's a lot of different chunks to that pot of money. Your property taxes themselves are very rarely, if ever, go up at the same rate as the valuation. So, just to kind of put it in perspective, nobody likes paying property taxes. I understand that. I did a real quick look, so these might not be 100% accurate numbers, but rough. The average home value in Pullman is about $425-ish, $450,000 is the average home value. The assessed value actually is close to about $350,000. Assessed values typically lag behind. That's not unique to Pullman or Whitman County. Typically lag behind market value. So if you have an average home in Pullman, you're probably paying about $1,100 to $1,200 a year to the city of Pullman. Your property taxes as a whole more, but what's going to the city of Pullman. So about $100 a month to the city of Pullman. So what does that get you? What do you get for your $100 a month? Well, you get a professional fire department that Chief Sean Hurst just talked about. You get police services and one of the lowest crime rates in the state. You get amazing park facilities. You get an incredible library. You get a breadth of and accessible recreation programs. And I tend to think of things of not of how much did they cost, but what do I get for my money? And my personal opinion is that's a pretty good value for $100 a month for those things you receive. So sales tax. Sales tax is the second largest revenue. This one is much more variable. Property tax is very, very predictable. I can predict probably within 1% what our property tax revenue is going to be every year very easily. Sales tax fluctuates a lot more. Here's the different sales taxes and the current rate. So there's what's called local, regular, and optional, and pretty much every taxing district in the state of Washington has this. This is 1% tax rate. It goes again to general government services. It generates about $6.5 million a year. There's a very small portion of this that we do share with the county, so we don't get the full 1%, but pretty close to it. There's a small revenue sharing that goes with that. There is a shared criminal justice county tax that's currently been in place for quite a while. This is 1/10 of 1%. The county assesses this, and we get a share of theirs, basically. It ends up being pretty close to 1/10% of the sales in Pullman, but it's actually taxed at the county-wide and then distributed based off of population. So that generates about $700,000 a year. Again, that has to be used for police services. There's a short-term lodging tax, LTAC, that is 4%. 2% of that is a credit against general state sales tax, and 2% is additional for the city, but we get the whole 4%. That must be used for tourism. That generates about $900,000 a year. There's a transportation benefit district tax, which has been in place for, like I said, not quite a year and a half. That's 1/10 of 1%, $650,000 a year, has to be used for transportation project. And then there's shared natural gas use tax. This is tax collected at the state on natural gas services provided from out-of-state entities, so that we get a portion of that back that's distributed from the state. So that generates about $500,000 a year. And then, of course, the criminal justice tax, the county will have their tax, but then the city will have a 1/10% tax, 1% tax that would go in place July 1. So that'll generate about $650,000 or so. So beginning July 1, the sales tax rate in Pullman will be 8.2%, about 1.7% of that stays local, 6.5% goes to the state, 1.7% stays local, and about 1.3% is specific to the city. About 4/10 goes to the county. Again, there's some sharing, so those numbers can vary a little bit based on the tax number collected, but pretty close to that. A regular and optional sales tax, so that local sales tax that generates the biggest chunk, that $6.5 million. You've heard me talk a lot about that. Those are down compared to last year, and you saw on that previous slide, the last couple of years are down. Taxes on construction activities are down 29% for the first 4 months of 2026 compared to the first 4 months of 2025. So that's what's causing the biggest reduction in that sales tax revenue is reduced construction. Non-construction activities, general retail sales is down also, that's about 3.7%. But the biggest is sales tax on construction activities. Short-term lodging taxes is actually one of our only sales tax revenue that is up for the first 4 months of 2026 compared to 2025. So that's up about 1.5%. That's really the only sales tax item that's seen an increase these 4 months compared to the 4 months of 2025. So then there's B&O tax, business and occupation taxes. So this is taxes on gross revenues of a business. The only B&O taxes that Pullman has currently is on utilities. So the taxes are electrical and natural gas at 8%, Avista being the primary provider of those. That generates about $4 million a year. Again, these can be a little fluctuating depending on the business. Telephone, we have a large number of telephone providers. That's about 8%, that's also 8%, that generates about $250,000. Solid waste, which is Pullman Disposal Services, is 11%, that generates about $600,000. And then now the water and sewer is at 11%, that is the city of Pullman, and that generates about $1.2 million. Those uses of those taxes are all general government or streets currently, so it either goes to general government or it goes to street maintenance and repair. A portion of that will get returned, is set to return to transit in 2027. So transit will be added to the additional use of those funds in 2027. In fact, the percentage of tax revenue for B&O taxes in Washington cities in 2024 is about 30% of the revenue was provided by B&O tax. For the city of Pullman, it's a little less than 21%. So the percentage of revenues that we're generating for B&O taxes is significantly less in Pullman than it is in the rest of Washington cities. So I want to talk a little bit about construction impacts. I mentioned that earlier. Construction has a strong impact on the economy and the revenue. So generally, construction generates sales tax and property tax, although if the construction is one of those exempt entities from property tax, so WCU, hospital, city projects, school district, that doesn't generate property tax, but it does still generate sales tax. Those entities still pay sales tax. So as construction slows, it kind of double whammies us a bit on our tax revenue. Construction has slowed both regionally and nationally in the last few years. So you've seen general slowdown in construction. Pullman has been affected by those state and national impacts. Things like tariffs, things like inflation, things like building codes, those all impact construction. I pulled a quick number from Sean Miller provided me information from the U.S. Census Bureau that overall construction in 2025 was down 1.1%, and private construction was down 2.6% the year before. This is nationally, so you're seeing that slowing down nationally. That's probably further complicated a little bit in Washington and in Pullman. One of the things that impacted us is in 2023 and 2024, over $85 million of federal grant money was spent on construction projects in Pullman. The airport and the downtown project. So that's $85 million of federal grant money that then generated sales tax off of those construction projects. Airport has slowed down significantly, and the downtown project's obviously completed. So Just to put in mind, we did 85 million in 2 years, 2025 was 2.5 million, and this year, year-to-date, it's about 350,000, so you can see we're on pace for even less than last year. So that's been part of the impact of that construction slowdown, combined with some of these national slowdowns. Obviously, WCU's enrollment has probably had some impact on construction, both on campus and off campus. In the late teens and even a little bit early 2020, we saw a lot of apartment construction, those types of things. A lot of that slowed as concerns about WCU enrollment has probably caused a lot of those developers to not want to do that going forward. So some of the things to keep in mind for revenue growth. Revenue growth is going to need to be part of our financial going forward. We've talked a lot in the past several months about expense reduction. Revenue growth is another thing, and we've done a couple things so far. The primary funding for any city or town is taxes. That's always going to be, and however you format that, whatever tax it is, that's always going to be the primary, particularly in the general government things. Those typically, most of those services don't have a charge for service, which means they're primarily funded by taxes. The primary funding source for the city increases less than the rate of inflation. Without some type of voter approval to lift the levy or put on any property tax, that source, because of that 1% law, is almost always going to increase at a lower rate than inflation. I just put this on there as kind of a idea so people understand. If we increase taxable sales volumes in Pullman, so just increase the total sales by 5%, that would generate about $450,000 of additional revenue. That's just a rough number for perspective. So, and the average in the last 15 years has been about a 4.6. Over the last 15 years, it's certainly had fluctuations where it's been as high as double. It's been somewhere it's gone down, but our average increase over the last 15 years is about 4.6%. So, if we did slightly better than average, we would generate about another $40,000 to $50,000. It's important to keep in mind that reduction in expenses sometimes can cause reductions in revenues too. So there's some of our things, you didn't see a lot of expense reductions, for example, in transit or in our streets projects when we did our expense reductions, because a lot of those are grant reimbursable. So if we cut our expenses, we're also reducing revenues in some of those cases. We saw that a little bit with some of the reductions that happened in our recreation services. We cut some recreation services, but we didn't gain the full dollar because we also lost some revenue sources. We still gained overall, but sometimes it's important to keep in mind that expense reductions can also cause some revenue reductions. And many revenue options are limited by state law. There's a lot of laws out there about what you can increase, how much you can increase it, how much you can tax, those types of things. So it's important to keep those in mind as we consider options. Grant options are great. We continue to pursue grants. We've had some very good success. You saw our grant numbers, particularly on the citywide side, are pretty good. Unfortunately, not a lot of grants are available for general government functions, particularly general operations. There's not a lot of grants, large grants anyway, for things like library operations or fire operations. Sometimes there is for facilities. In some cases, but even that, they're pretty limited. A lot of the grants operations are related to things like transit, streets, those types of things. Special benefit districts do create some increased options for revenue generation. That's something we need to keep in mind as we look at all of our options of how those special benefit districts play into consideration. Again, increases to many revenue sources require voter approval, either through a bond levy, a levy lift, tax increases, formation of a district. So that's something to keep in mind as we evaluate is we may need to engage the voters, whether it's renewal of a bond for parks and paths, or whether it's a new bond to build something, or whether it's a levy lift. Those are all things that include, and rightfully so, include voter approval. And after taxes, charges for services are the next largest source of revenue. So to make significant gains in revenues, it probably needs to impact at least partially one of those two categories. If you start doubling the cost of fee permits, you're not going to generate a lot of revenue. We actually generate, as you saw, we generate less than most cities do in our fees for permits and things like charges for fines and penalties. So those are not large revenue sources for us and never will be. One of the things that was attached in there, and I'm sure you probably haven't read it, I think it's about 180 pages. It is a nice thing to reference. I don't recommend reading, but it's a nice thing to like go and reference and look at it. And I use it occasionally. They just put out a new version. I think the last version was put out in 2024, so the new version just came out last month. But it's MRSC Revenue Guide for Cities and Towns. I know you're probably all familiar with MRSC. They have a lot of wonderful resources. But I would encourage you to look at that and you can kind of look at the different categories. It's a valuable source. It provides a lot of information about legal changes that just recently happened. It provides a lot about revenue sources, the impacts, what's the allowable use of those revenue sources. So it's really a good thing that I would encourage you to reference as we continue to have discussions going forward and as we enter the next budget cycle. With that, I'll gladly answer any questions, or if you want me to go back and expand on anything on any of the slides, I'd be glad to do so.
Any questions? Tawny, go ahead.
Okay, I don't really have the question fully fleshed out now, but when I was campaigning, I spent a lot of time talking about increasing revenues, right? And I guess I didn't think about the increase in taxes so much as I thought about clearing the way through whatever we could allow, whatever regulation that we maybe didn't need to make harder than what the state already had, because I know that we do have some regulation hurdles, so that small businesses could get started here, and so that we could have more of that tax revenue through more businesses, not higher taxes on the businesses that exist. So it's something like a buy local campaign that we could do, like DPA, Chamber of Commerce, with these arms that we work with. Is that something we could do, where we're just really pushing the idea of buying what we have here, partially because of pride and because of our great little town, but also because it helps us, because when that revenue comes in, then you get the library open the hours that you want it open for, and you get the swim programs that you want and that sort of stuff. So I don't really know what the question is, but it's just kind of thoughts I have.
Yeah, that's absolutely a piece of the puzzle. I don't think it's the only piece, but that is 100% true that that's a piece of the puzzle. Is you can't just keep going taxes, but part of the thing that I want to make sure people understand is because of some of the limitations on taxes, growing the pot only has so much impact, more so on property tax than sales tax. But yes, I think trying to grow that is an important piece of the puzzle.
One of the things too, if I can interject there, is when you go out and make a large purchase of something, you want to buy a new couch, have it delivered in Pullman, and then we get the sales tax at the point of delivery rather than going and picking it up somewhere else. Order Costco online, as an example. I do that as well. Get my toilet paper delivered to the house. That way I know that my sales tax is coming back to Pullman. So any local, buy local campaign is going to be a positive influence for Pullman.
Is that something that we could lean on our partners to work with us on?
It's that new work group that's coming up. It'd be great.
Okay. Eric, go ahead.
Wow, what was I supposed to say? Thank you. Appreciate the presentation, and thank you for the, and thank you MSRC for that light reading on tax. Council just recently passed a sales tax increase for public safety. For our future presentations, are we going to see that as a separate line item to track?
Yeah, so in some cases I'll talk about it as a sales tax, but I'll probably highlight it. So, when I go here in the sales tax, that would be an additional. So right now we've got the shared criminal justice kind of tax. There would be the Pullman specific criminal justice tax that would show up. So yeah, we'll be able to track that as a separate item.
Great, cool.
Trevor.
Thank you. Hey, we got the slide pulled up that I wanted to talk about. So for the LTAX, short-term lodging tax revenue, up 1.5%, awesome. Are we able to see from the city side the composition of that tax revenue?
I do not get the breakdown. We just get the monthly deposit from the state. So that's all collected at the state level. So we just get the gross amount is all we receive.
Got it. And that also includes hotels?
Any lodging less than 30 days.
Got it. Great, thank you.
Anybody else?
So I was kind of wondering about that too. Actually, I asked you about that ahead of time. And one of the things I wonder, like where it's like, doesn't make sense, right? We have like I don't know, quarter or half as many Airbnbs as we did a year ago. If you're shopping on their site, regardless of how we track it. And like the mayor was on the radio a month ago mentioning like Family Week, maybe there was less demand or something. So it sounded weird. But then I started thinking a little bit more, and SEL just hit 8,000 total employees. Not all of them are in Pullman, but a lot of them are in Pullman, and it's actually the place where we hire, sorry, not we, like SEL, sorry, I'm trying to wear my city hat right now, but that's where SEL hires more people in Pullman than anywhere else in the world, by a pretty wide margin. SEL is going through a pretty massive hiring increase, and I was like, well, maybe it's like, all the people coming in for like their interviews or for their temporary housing when they first start, if that's part of the, what, depending on the situation. And I kind of wonder if there's like a really big opportunity. One of the things that's come up, I think there was a presentation from the city for, no, it wasn't. It was, anyways, whatever. Like, I think one of the weird dynamics for Pullman is like the average income for Pullman is extremely low compared to most cities, and part of that's because it's like the percent of people that are students. And I think we have this massive opportunity to where, places like SEL are hiring, and that they're going to pay more than most students make. It would be amazing if we can figure out some ways to make that home for people, right? The people that live in Pullman are going to generate more sales tax and more construction tax if they're getting a house here or whatever. Then somebody, like, if I work in Pullman and I live somewhere else, like I might run to Walmart because I forgot something, it's like at lunch, but probably after I go home, like we're not getting that money as a city. And so I think the more we can figure out, like, how can we like evolve with that changing, that could be a really massive win for Pullman. So.
Well, I think in the mayor's State of the City address, we highlighted the population changes that have occurred over time, whereas now 50% of the citywide population are like townies versus students. And I think that dynamic is starting to slowly change and shift that way. Part of that too is the decline in enrollment, so it's kind of one of those balance acts.
And did you?
I just wanted to ask you a question. Does SEL, this is going to sound weird, I don't mean it to, but do they have statistics on where their employees live? Like how percentage in Pullman, percentage in Moscow, Lewiston, Clarkston, who work in Pullman? Do you know if they have that stat?
Yep, they do. Yeah, okay. I think they're working on finding ways to share that more broadly. And definitely one of the feedbacks, whatever, I've been for like a decade on different committees about like, livability for different offices and different things like housing, whatever, for SEL. And for sure the feedback is like people want to live in Pullman. They need more options for that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to let the council know we do have a few more to go, and we have a session after. And for anyone watching, so we may be bumping up against that 9 o'clock. And I did not set the agenda. So
it's a very
I'm ambitious
agenda.
Yeah. So
Right on my fire, sir.
this is Francis did this on purpose. Okay. I feel bad for our staff here. Okay. Next is the Inovia, the longest table grant program. Hello. Thank you. Sorry it's so late.
That's okay. This one should be brief for you guys, hopefully. But I'm Valerie Weaver, if I haven't met any of you or haven't seen you in a little while. Grants and Special Projects Manager here. And the Inovia Foundation, who serves Eastern Washington and North Idaho, they serve 20 different counties and also tribes in those areas. They are launching a new grant program, the Longest Table, which we actually have been kind of a model for them on when they're putting out these materials, because we hosted an event last September that we got grant funding under a different one of their grants, the Community Heart and Soul grant. So this year they're kind of playing off of that and launching a whole new program specifically just to have these community table events all around this region. They're hoping to fund at least 60 of them throughout that 20-county area, and offering up to $2,500 in microgrants. And the level of funding depends on your expected amount of attendees. And so we had about 240 attendees, we believe, at last September's event. It was a great success. I know some of you were there. And really the heart behind it is they really want no strings attached, just invite the whole community to come down and share a meal together. They want to bring people together over food. They don't want it to be a fundraiser for any particular organization or anything. They don't want people to they don't want an admission cost or anything like that. They just want organizations and or municipalities, whoever wants to put these on, to bring people together in the community. And so we feel like we had a successful time doing that last year, and we want to try to do it again. They let us know that we're eligible to do that, to apply again. And we're just bringing that to you guys to see if you have interest in doing that again. We're hoping this September, similar time frame, making sure that students are here, they can be a part of the community event, but we're not bumping up against like a home football game or anything like that. So yeah, we've got that draft application here for you, and we want to see what you guys think.
So any questions, comments?
I guess comment. I thought it was great last year. Thank you.
Yeah.
Such a fun time to be part of that planning group, so thank you for everybody who was involved. Yeah, especially past council member Carla DeLira. I think it's a great idea for us to do again. I really liked our bingo cards that we did. Mm-hmm. Got people talking. I don't know if that's mandated as part of the funding, but yeah, it should be. I think that would be a really great idea to have again. So I will probably help you plan that as well.
Anybody else? All right, and great, oh, do you have something, Trevor? Okay, and great job, Eric, on doing that. That was a huge thing, so appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, a lot of hands made light work of it all. Yeah.
And, of course, Valerie.
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
I don't take credit, so, but I'm at least getting us launched for this year, hopefully.
So the mayor is just looking for, and just need consensus. We all agree? Great?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cool, all right.
Thank you, guys.
Go forth and prosper, all right.
I was literally thinking that. I was literally thinking that.
What's that?
Go forth
thinking
and
that you
prosper.
said it. I don't know, weird.
You can chime in.
You're not up. What are you doing? No, go ahead. Go. All right.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem
Anytime.
Weller. So this evening, I'd like to discuss with you Chapter 1.55 in City Code that relates to the Lawson Garden Committee. This committee was formed in 2005. It was after the donor, Gerald Lawson, passed away in 2000. The duties of Lawson Garden Committee was to seek donations and private funding and give input to the Parks and Recreation Commission on improvements and operations at Lawson Gardens. Also, by the ordinance was to assist with continued development of the garden's master plans or the vision that Gerald Lawson had for the gardens. It was also until recently, Lawson Gardens was operating outside the general fund. It had its own endowment from investments that Gerald had put together. There was also a farm, I think, of about 600 acres that was also contributing money to the gardens. The gardens operated that way until about 2 years ago, I think, at the recommendation of the state auditor, that we pulled operations of Lawson Gardens under the general fund. There wasn't enough interest being provided or coming in from the endowment to cover the operations or expenditures of Lawson Garden. So I think Finance Director said about recently transferred about 131,000 interest from the endowment, and we're budgeted at about $150,000 of expenditures this year. So at that time, so now all operations, Lawson Gardens kind of operates as just a general parks function, I guess, if you will. So with that and the gardens now being, I think they opened probably in '93, somewhere in there. So the vision, I guess the master plan of the gardens has kind of been carried out to this point. There isn't a lot of further development. As my predecessor, Alan Davis, was retiring in late '21, it was his recommendation we look at sunsetting this committee. I recently had a conversation with Mitch Chandler, who serves as the chair of this committee, and he was in agreement that this was probably a move that we could make. If there was to be further development in the park or a phase 2 on the bottom side of the gardens, as I think is in the master plan, then maybe we look at reviving this committee or do something similar that we're doing with the Memory Garden, and it's an interested citizens committee that could provide input. So if we were to sunset the Lawson Gardens Committee, those functions would just roll into the Parks and Recreation Commission, which serves as an advisory committee to the City Council. I would note that Mick Nazarelli is on the Lawson Gardens Committee, and he is also chair of our Parks and Rec Commission. So we do have somebody that has kind of that vested interest in Lawson Gardens going forward if we were to move this direction. So I would take any comments.
Questions or comments?
So I'm kind of naive, but it seems like a weird time just with the memory garden thing, because right, you made a comment, it's like, if we start something new, that's kind of new, right? Why shouldn't that be a reason to, I'm not advocating one way or another, just it's like, that's new and that's happening right now, right?
Yeah, and I think the committee has kind of been put on hold since probably about 22 when I started on. We kind of had an agreement with the committee. We'd meet twice a year in early spring, late fall, kind of what's going to happen in the gardens, what happened in the gardens over the summer. And it's kind of been on, I guess, kind of a little bit of a hiatus. And this kind of the memory garden popped up pretty quickly. We did make a recommendation, or we had a presentation from the Memory Garden Committee, our architect, to the Parks and Rec Commission to make a recommendation to the City Council to accept basically the donation to construct. So I guess it is a little unique.
I guess the thing that I would probably wonder, I honestly don't care about the committee or no committee. It's just what's the impact to getting the memory garden up and going? Is this committee gonna slow it down, speed it up, have no impact whatsoever on the timeline of that?
They're meeting, that committee, Citizen Committee, is meeting monthly. They're providing some good input and detail for fundraising, for the architect, kind of all facets of pulling that together. So.
Okay, so it's good.
It's working.
It's gonna move along, with or without this.
Correct.
Okay.
Eric? Thank you. This doesn't change the endowment, does it? Or will we still be receiving endowment funds?
And Jeff could speak further. I believe the endowment has a base valuation of about $2.9 million. That does not change. So it's just the interest that comes in is going to fluctuate with the economy and interest rates and those type of things.
And if I recall correctly, you said that the endowment funds doesn't fully pay for the cost of running Lawson Gardens?
Correct.
Yeah. Are we allowed to advertise donations to the endowment fund to maybe eventually get it to that point if we do absorb it into Parks and Rec? We're allowed to have a link up there?
To the city.
Yeah.
It'd be
I know it might be a gray area.
designated to the city.
Yeah. But no other, do we have any other endowments for properties in the city?
The library.
We have an endowment that we use for cemetery expansion. So the specific Lawson Gardens endowment is actually held external. And so we get the transfer of that interest. So I don't know if there's the opportunity to add to that principal.
It's not an OBIA?
We do accept donations to Lawson Gardens in general.
Right.
That we do through the Metro Parks account, or through the Lawson Gardens account. So the cash comes in and then gets transferred. So it won't necessarily add to the principal, but if people want to donate money to Lawson Gardens, they can still do it for that purpose. It just doesn't add to that initial.
Endowment, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right.
So
Well, we do need a decision about,
I support sunsetting the committee.
Is it just the chair or does the whole committee? Did they make a motion on this agreement or was it just between you and Mitch?
Mitch, and I think he was also, there was a couple other members that I think he's had discussions with that were, they won't be heartbroken.
I think Pat was, she at least, that was something she was interested in at one time. Okay.
So what we're looking for tonight is just a general consensus that the sunsetting of Lawson Gardens Committee is kind of a head nod. And then staff will be bringing back a consent agenda item that would remove the section of city code effectively, and then a resolution to sunset the committee, so.
Okay, good.
Consensus? All right.
Well, I have a question, really quick. Would it, I don't know, would it be uncouth to ask that committee to have talked about and voted on sunsetting themselves before it comes to us? I don't know. Does that make sense? Is this just above board kind of question?
I don't think that's necessary. I mean, they can.
Sure. It's like
I mean,
belts and
we could-
suspenders, right? It's a bunch of extra-
So
the
if,
chair knows about it.
we're not making a final motion or anything, if there's someone on the committee that's like, what, we're sunsetting this committee, are you kidding me? They could come and talk for 2 minutes, next time.
Yeah.
That's totally.
So we're at least in consensus, and if there's somebody in disagreement, they can come and talk.
Okay, great.
Right.
Cool, all right. That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
We'll have time to call Kurt.
All right, RJ. And this is actually a big topic, right? Motorized scooters, bicycles,
Hopefully we can get it to scoot along.
C2 Central.
You've been waiting on
We're gonna
that.
ride
We're still
2.5 hours, a long time to prepare.
We're
Hey,
still
buddy, I
awake.
appreciate it, all right.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Weller, thank you for having me. Good evening, City Council. Back in February 24th, 2026, I was over here talking about scooters, and there were some questions, some concerns. So I brought back some information. Thank you to Chief Brashears and Officer Anderson for helping me come up with some material to share with the City Council this evening. So as you recall, back in November of 2025, at that council meeting, there was a resolution for moratorium on portions of Pullman City Code Section 12.10 and 12.11. And that was a continuation of prior moratoriums that we've had in place essentially since the beginning of a contract with Spin Scooters, primarily to allow scooters throughout the city of Pullman, scooters and bicycles, electric scooters and bicycles throughout the city of Pullman, more particularly in the downtown C2 business district. So back in February, I was here talking about that, and there were some concerns that popped up, and I wanted to address some of those and ultimately get a general direction from the City Council on what to do next. So the moratorium that we have in place ends June 30th, 2026. So we're coming up on that deadline where that moratorium will no longer be in place. So there are some RCWs which I've included in your information for this evening. RCW, and I'll just hit on these really briefly. RCW 46-04336 defines what an electric scooter is. If there was any confusion about what that is, RCW 46.04.169 defines what an electric bicycle is. And when I was here back in February, there were some questions about what is a class 1, a class 2, a class 3. And that is actually defined in that RCW. And I've included that into your information tonight. There is an RCW that I did want to draw some attention to, because I think this did come up back in February. RCW 46.61.710 prohibits an operating electric scooter of class 3 on a sidewalk unless there's no alternative or they have been authorized by local ordinance. Another thing I wanted to bring up, City of Bellevue does have a speed limit related to electric scooters and bicycles of 15 miles per hour. Pullman currently has in our city code a speed limit of 25. And that's just on, not just on sidewalks, but city paths and other locations throughout the city. The city police department, as I mentioned back in February, said there was very few significant issues with electric scooters and bicycles in 2025. Building off of that, there were a number of comments from the city council a few months ago about what is there to do about negligent operating of electric scooters and bicycles. And there is an existing code which is not impacted by the moratorium. Pullman City Code 12.11.020 highlights exactly that negligent operation is prohibited. And it goes through and describes what that is. So there are no, people cannot operate electric scooters and bicycles negligently under our city code. So that's already identified. So to wrap this up quickly, at a minimum, staff would like further direction on what to do, more particularly prior to June 30th of this year, so that we can bring forth a code that would allow for permanent controls for electric scooters and bicycles. In addition to that, in my opinion, it would need to match what the moratorium prevents enforcement of. So, continuation of electric scooters and bicycles throughout the city, including the downtown C2 business district. Are there any questions that I can answer? Anything that I may have left out? I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have a comment. It was, was interesting. I was listening to the two guys in Wheatfield News this morning on the radio, and they had on the mayor of Moscow. And she spoke to this issue in Moscow because their council either, did they address it or they're going, they just approved it. And they asked some really pertinent questions like, are there a lot of like injury reports? And same thing, she said, no, check with our police department, our fire, EMTs, and no. She did, I think one really important point that she made, because when you're speaking about electric bicycles and scooters downtown, I mean, I see them there. I mean, there might be a moratorium, but they're down there. I see them all the time. She said that they have not had any safety concerns. They have not had any like accidents or someone being like riding it too fast and hitting a tub or whatever. So I thought that was really interesting that here's our city that we often compare ourselves to with the university, and she said, we don't have a problem. We've not had any problems, very similar to the report you just gave. So I think it's time to let this loose and let's get it under control for the city myself.
Yeah, so personally, like I think we got a little bit psyched out last time. You know, we'd heard that there hasn't been any incidents, and then Pat shared a story about, I think her daughter who had an incident, but actually it was with a non-motorized scooter, and it wouldn't have been, none of this would have applied to that particular incident other than maybe, I mean, I wasn't there, but I definitely wasn't the one on the scooter. I want to be clear about that. But,
Kind of adjusting a lot.
but unless it was like the, you know, reckless or whatever the term was, aspect of it, really none of this would have been covered by that anyways. Like, personally, I would love to see us just rip this out, even though I know we all got a little bit psyched out last time. Because I agree with you. I mean, if the data shows that we haven't had issues, and to what you just pointed out, there's still something that's like, hey, you can't be reckless or whatever. Like, it seems like that should cover it. That's my opinion.
Tawny?
I'm just gonna throw in, I'm with them. Less rules is more.
Well, they've been working
Trevor?
successfully.
I'm in agreement too. I think we can, I think it's time.
Yeah.
Eric?
Okay.
Sounds good. All right, I think you've had consensus.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for staying.
Just to clarify then, before you stand up, sir.
I was so close.
And also,
So the direction of staff would be to go forward with permanent land use controls and, not land use controls, I'm sorry, enforcement controls that would allow motorized scooters in the C2 zone, and it would get rid of the moratorium on enforcement that is currently in place today.
Yes.
scooters and bicycles.
Scooters and
But
bicycles.
keep that other place in that says like, you can't be reckless or whatever the term
That's
is.
our
Yeah,
existing.
Yeah.
Keep the enforcement, like the tickets and stuff.
All right.
So then we will try to have something in place for that by
June 30th.
June 30th. There he goes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ahmed.
Good job tonight, Dan.
All right. Stumble. All right. Well, at this time, frankly, thank you, staff, for staying. I know it's a lot. You all do a lot. Dee, thank you so much for direction. Everybody watching, put your kids to bed, or if you've already fallen asleep, I understand.
Wake up.
Turn the TV off.
Executive session at this time. The council will adjourn to an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 to discuss with legal counsel representing the city matters relating to agency enforcement actions, or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency potential litigation concerning litigation that has been specifically threatened, to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party, and litigation or legal risks of a proposed action or current practice that the agency has identified when public discussion of the litigation or legal risks is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. It's expected to last 10 minutes. The council does not anticipate taking action following the executive session.
Now everyone's asleep.
All right. Take what? 2 minutes to use the restroom, grab water. 2 minutes.
Executive session will continue for another 5 minutes to 8:39.
To adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Yay.